Boxed in. The truth gets loud with no device. You're boxed in with Bryce.
I have not experienced since, but the first time I ever set up the whole like rig and got it going,
Yeah.
I hit the exact point of, because when you're talking right now, you hear like you can hear yourself kind of like higher than what you're speaking. I got the
Right.
like exact sound where it felt like super smooth. It was like really weird, like a Nirvana type feeling, because
Yeah.
because then I could hear like the other person really well. It was really I don't know. I haven't achieved it since.
This is like just because the focus is so precise on the voice, it just adjusts my brain to be very honed in on that. So I'm just letting you know, with this kind of awareness that's shifting my brain, it's making me more conscious of how I sound or express myself, which is very interesting.
Yeah, it's like you're kind of losing, not your senses, but like a little bit of your like, there's not, you can like maybe hear the hum of the AC, but like everything else would be very faint compared to, yeah, you're definitely like locking into a different, like
Yes.
not realm, but
Brain shift. It's like
Yeah.
your brain is, because what your brain does is it like automatically will adjust where your attention should go and cut out what's not needed. And this is where, like, I guess thinking of neurodivergence and even especially people with autism under that spectrum, they're able to take in more and not have like a shut off switch. There's like a gene in us that puts like I forgot what that gene's called, but it basically helps us focus in on one thing particularly. And people with ADHD and autism have sometimes a tougher time honing in on particular things to focus on. And so for me, I have ADHD. So I'm like, I see what I need to focus on, and then I can hyper focus on one thing. So it's a new adjustment. It's very interesting. Cool.
what do you think, like when you can't focus on something, like is the deciding factor? Is it sensory overload? Is it
Yeah.
social norm aspects of life? What do you think is?
For me, sensory overload, I can't focus. I look like a deer in the headlights when I'm in like a crowded space or when there's a lot of people. I'm like, because what I do is I look at everybody's faces and they like listen to several different conversations at once and can bounce in between them. But it's very difficult for me to, in a crowded space, hone in. But for this, it's especially because I'm in a lot of the work I do is one-on-one based. And so I'm reading people's body posture and positioning in addition to their facial reactions and what they're saying. Sometimes what they're saying, sometimes it's what they're typing. So I'm really good at feeling energy in the room, so to speak, and perceiving that, because it's a practice that I do constantly and consistently. But when I'm not in that space, when there's several people to read, it's overwhelming for my brain. Yeah.
I definitely see that like in myself too. Like it's,
Yeah.
I think that's a big reason why I did this podcast one-on-one. It's like people are like, oh, like, hey, I'll be like a host with you, or we'll do like a lot of like guest spots.
Yeah.
And I purposely put myself in like my audio recorder only takes 2 microphones, because I was like, even if I wanted to at a later point maybe, but to start, like the
Yeah.
whole podcast is connecting with people.
Yeah.
And it's so hard, like let alone 2 people connecting.
Yeah.
Like that's already like on a deep level, you know, things we've talked about before, getting to that next stage, even just adding one other person, like if I'm not mistaken, like 3's a crowd, right? Like if I don't know if that's the saying, I think it is, but
Depends on what kind of
I guess it
vibe
depends.
you're looking. But I'm with you.
I think no, but it isn't like the saying though, 3's a crowd.
Yeah.
I could be butchering it, but
You know what? I've heard that saying before.
I think yeah, I
You're not
could be
alone.
wrong. But I think sometimes it like, and I love people and I love hanging out with people and being around people, but sometimes like connecting, it is really hard because somebody could, you know, have a bad day or something's in a different situation there. It's not saying you can't have a great time, but getting to like a deeper level of just even connection is we're getting so lost in a million reasons why we could go on for, but
right.
let alone to then add somebody else, I think it's
changes the dynamic.
Super difficult. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And this is one of the reasons why, like right now I'm in a social welfare program. I'm basically practicing group work in addition to individual work. But I've done a lot of extensive work with families, and I haven't gotten explicit training in that. But there's a lot of dynamics socially people adjust to. And what I think is very interesting is some people believe they have like a consistent self across all settings. But we are co-creating our sense of self when you meet other people. And you learn more about who you are by putting yourself out there. And a lot of people even say in relationships, especially romantic ones, we're looking at a mirror. And so the partner you have kind of reflects to you like, hey, this is where you're at. This is what I'm perceiving. And then people shift over time to see whether that is their true sense of self. Is that who they feel like they align with in that present moment and over time? Or is it not? So for me, I see people's sense of selves as very abstract and co-created across time. But a lot of people, it's easier for our brain to have a stable sense of who we are. And some people have no idea what that is. They can't like describe it. Like you could ask, who are you? And then they're like talking about everyone else but themselves.
They're just like jelly falling through like somebody's hands.
Right.
Like they're not even existing of anything that's solid at all.
I once was asked like, who even are you? And I go, I am an ever-changing concept. And I still stick by that. I am an ever-changing concept. Yes.
I like the mirror part you said about like relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like a lot that I've seen in like my romantic relationships has been like a mirror.
Yeah.
When you mean like mirror, do you mean it in like the opposite way, or do you mean it like in the way, right? Because when you look at a mirror, are you referring it, because you said it like yourself, right? So I guess it's you're talking about somebody like being very similar, because I've found myself like a lot of the time, like sometimes connecting with people that are not like opposite of me, but there's definitely things that are like completely on one end and some things that are completely on the other. And obviously you find that right in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like most relationships I've been, some of my friends are like, I never would have thought that like if we both know each other, like, you know, you two would like, you know, click in that way.
Interesting.
So the mirror is a good like aspect, because you always hear like opposites attract, but it's also like kind of like the two sides of the mirror.
Yeah.
I thought it was a cool like reference.
Yeah, I think I heard something like that in either class or something, but it's an idea of, it can mean whatever you think it means. I took it as when you're in a relationship, especially including friendships, you're like, you know, when you're talking with a friend and all of a sudden you're like, yeah, I connect with you on that, or, oh, I don't really connect with you on that. It's that reflecting together that you can see what connects and what doesn't. And that's what I kind of took that mirror analogy to be, is you learn more who that sense of self is because of the people you connect with. But it's interesting, yeah, like it could be you could see yourself differently because you're reflecting with someone who you connect with on some level, but they're like the opposite of who you are.
Yeah.
So
it's like the other side of the mirror.
Yeah.
That's what I was, because I know you said like connecting with it, but I thought it was an interesting like analogy, so I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
I got a couple of those in my back pocket kind of vibes.
I think I'm the analogy guy.
Yeah.
now I'm kind of putting myself on a pedestal here.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to start.
I'd hope a comedian would be.
I would hope so.
Comedians are social scientists.
I like that.
They are. You guys observe and.
What do you do for a living? Just a social scientist.
Yeah.
Currently in a doing a project right now in a lab.
Yeah. It's called the local bar.
The local bar.
Yeah.
Seeing how people are interacting.
Yes.
How do you think interaction has changed, like, socially? from you growing up till now. Because I feel like I felt a huge difference.
Are you Gen Z or millennial?
I don't know.
What? How old are you?
How old do you think I am?
I think you're mid-20s.
You hit it on the dot.
Yeah.
About to be 26 in a couple months.
Oh, okay, cool. So, I'm 25. So I was given a phone at 13. When were you given a phone?
Second grade? How old are you then? 9?
9, yeah.
That's like my thing in life, tangent. Like kid ages, I have no idea. Like grades or like when babies like walk for the first time.
That's fair.
I need to start studying that. Like when kids at all. Tangent, but yeah, like.
It's really
9
interesting.
Or 10 or so.
So I went to school to study psychological development, and I like honed in on that, especially because I was also homeschooled. And I wanted to see, why do kids grow up and say they hate school when I learned to love learning, and I especially loved learning about people. And so I started studying. I had like a existential crisis at 13, which was just this is the same time I got a phone, and I had older friends at that time, and I was just noticing they were involved in things that I wasn't ready for at that maturity level at that point in time. And it was when I got a phone, I was exposed to a lot of content I wish I never saw. I mean, already at 9 years old, I felt like I saw a lot of violent things on a TV screen that I wish I never saw. Even being Jewish, like, I was exposed to seeing a lot of Holocaust tapes and stuff, saying, never let this happen again. We need to always remember. And so I was also inside a very Christian town. There was like a church on every corner. So when you ask me like how I was socialized and how that shifted over time, I think that's different for everybody. But if we add this extra variable of technology and how that has hyper-connected youth, especially with their sense of self-connected to an outside world, perceived through a screen, not through lived experiences. And as someone who's had the privilege to travel, it shifts also your sense of self when you travel, which I had the privilege of doing as a teenager and in my early 20s. So putting that in, how I've socialized over time is largely been from my exposure to different environments, including the environment through a phone, which I wish I never had at 13. I wish I was given it at 18. And obviously the research for that didn't come until very recently. That really isn't great for brain development to have that kind of exposure to children through a screen, let alone social media, which I'm lucky I haven't had some of the worst things that some, unfortunately, children have experienced through social media. Yeah. So how have I socialized? Better than most, but it has been jolting.
The jealousy of being self-aware at 13 is like coming out of. I wish I was self-aware that young. Actually, that's what I hope. I feel like I was in a constant state of. I think one of the biggest things like I've learned in life is just like it's a marathon, not a sprint. And I constantly saw myself as a kid, like I was running this sprint and not being self-aware. So to hear that being that young, oh my gosh, jealousy to like a crazy extent. To just even just to see, hey, that's kind of, I'm not saying like you're looking at the whole pot here, but even to be like, hey, that's kind of like fucked up to see. Because I was definitely like influenced. Like people were showing me some shady shit. Like I do not, if today you told me I would have never seen like 2 Girls, 1 Cup, like I'd be fine. Like I'd be like happy with that.
But like I heard the same thing at 13, 2 Girls, 1 Cup, and I was like, never exposed to any pornography, none of that, and like my friends starting to be sexually active around that time, and I didn't have that much self-awareness. I want to be straight with you.
But even to have some though is to be like, hey, I don't even want to.
I was depressed. Let's be honest. I were you depressed at 13?
A little bit older.
A little bit older.
A little bit older.
Okay. I with the environment being told like, you know, everything's going to be destroyed. There won't be a future by 2030. I'm over here crying. I tell my mom like, I don't even know if there's a world for me to, or my kids, if I were to have kids to live in. And like, I was freaking out. And I was like, my parents brought me up not to kind of be out there with my Jewish identity, and I was not deeply involved in the community at all. So it was really jolting. I keep using that word, but it was weird to like be around people who really believed in God and that there was hope and there was a purpose. And I'm like, where is that? And I'm losing my sense of hope. And so I was like looking to scripture. I was not looking. The only answer I found through a phone was finding some psych articles and psych videos. And then I went, because I had an existential crisis then too, because I thought I was going to be a fashion designer. And, you know, I also saw growing up, like, I saw people older than me within my family who weren't able to find what they wanted to do with their lives. And I was like, oh, I got to figure it out because I'm a woman. I gotta make money. I got to be doing this so that I don't have to depend on anyone. And that narrative internalized in capitalism and having to survive in it and what I have to do to make it myself. And so it just it led me to try and question, like, what's the point of me being here if I'm supposed to chase? What made you feel like you needed to chase?
It's a good question. I mean, it sounds so broad, but, like, I think that when you're a kid, you automatically have, if you're doing any activities outside of school, you're pretty much go. Like for the most part, I'm playing hockey a couple days a week. I'm trying to see friends. I'm in school 8 hours a day. So I think just automatically, like, the structure that I was put into is kind of in a fast mentality of, okay,
yeah,
I'd wake up some mornings like 6 o'clock in the morning, figure out what friend's house we're meeting at to then go to hockey practice, get off school, you know, go. That was kind of more like not like a scheduled practice, but we'd go like just have fun at the rink.
Yeah.
That was a couple days a week. Then we'd actually have regular practice after. And I was playing hockey like really far from like West LA to like Ontario for like a couple years.
So the driving was
all driving. That's another couple hours down, toppled with homework and whatever it might be. I think a big thing with the chases too is that at a young age I was sent to like a learning disability school, and I think that I'd probably say like 4th grade, it didn't make me self-aware in the sense that I can like look into myself. It made me, I guess, more like self-conscious. Like you're going from like a 40 kid class to like 7, you know? So it's weird. It's super odd automatically. Yeah. So, and then at those schools, because in a lot of like special ed kids schools that I've seen,
yeah,
they try to like set you up for success for sure, but it is like a little bit of fear. I think more like, I think in like a public school environment, from what I'm seeing, it's like, hey, we're all about to go have to jump off this boat here. You know what I mean? Like, hey, like after high school, like you want to fill out your college app, cool. This guy doesn't.
Yeah.
You want to smoke weed, cool. If you're gonna go with those people on that boat and head out west, it was like a little bit of like a Hitler environment there, where it's like, we're gonna fucking like if this doesn't happen, like it's about to be bad, you know? I think that because there is this pressure of funding this, that, whatever, you know, that was a big thing too of and it was like a slow death. It was not like every single day school. It was like, hey, it's really scary out there in the. It's like you're in a bubble. You are in a bubble.
You're
Socially, you're in a bubble.
Technically a cage because you're on lockdown and
yeah, there wasn't even a yard at the school I went to in middle
Oof.
school. There was like there was a gym, so that's nice. I guess I'm sounding pretentious, but I think outside's good, like good for kids. They need to be out there, and you definitely feel like trapped. Like there were fights in any blind corner that there could be, like in a weird environment like that. So, yeah, I don't know. I think that's a big reason too of just you kind of felt this pressure of. I remember at the end of the year they would like because there was like no kids that went there. They would like show on like a projector screen.
Yeah.
This person's going to this school and this person's going. It's like in a public school that would never fucking happen.
No.
So, that school was definitely a big thing for that, and just that's the one thing that I don't really love about. I think there's a lot of benefits to like smaller schools and specialized schools, but I think there is definitely some cons too.
So you felt you needed to run because you were at this school that created a schedule that made it feel like it was either this or nothing.
Yeah, it was like, and it was a pressure that wasn't even, it wasn't like the dad coach on someone's baseball team that like would pressure his son more. It was like when they said it, they made it seem super scary. Like, hey, you're in a chill environment right now, but next
you're
like,
about to have bills.
Yeah, you're about to have bills. Not even bills, but you're about to like. They didn't really do like homework there. It was like a lot of like project based stuff, and they're like, no other place is gonna be like this. So it was like a lot more of I think like that aspect of like, you're kind of being like, babied is a hard word, but it's true. Like you're being a little bit babied here, rightfully so, because people were in harder environments and whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But and maybe didn't click with the learning environment, then they got diagnosed with whatever it might be, ADHD or so on and so forth. So yeah, I think it was just like the pressure of hearing a lot of like nothing is college, high school, nothing's gonna be like this kind of going forward, which is it's true, but it's very you already feel like an outsider, and then you're like, hold on, I'm about to be a double outsider again. So yeah, I think that was a big like realization for me that I was just getting burned out all the time, and then going to like bad stuff and not doing the right outlets, when you get burned out, and something I've really only been like working on, I would say in the last like 5 years, if that, maybe, of being like more figuring out like, hey, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint.
Yeah, I think the being homeschooling part definitely gave me the option of choosing, hey, you have options, there's things you can try. I almost went into fashion design and like I like showed my designs to all these really great schools, and then I talked to a fashion designer. She was driving home from traffic, and she had a newborn baby, and she was in LA traffic, and she was so pissed on the road, and I'm over here 13 listening to her, angry, and in a good job at Levi's, like doing well for herself at a good position after all this years of schooling, and she was so upset. And I get it was LA traffic, but I'm like, I don't want to be her. And then I said that to myself, and then that was when my existential crisis hit, because I was like, wait, I have a choice to not do something that's one of the hard parts about being an artist too, is like this weird way of you feeling like you have to compete, but really it's just a big pool of different people, and people have different preferences that you're catering to and connecting with, so you just find your niche. And I think that's for everyone. I think it's so important for everybody to find their niche and the people they belong with, but schools don't really teach that would involve them teaching critical thinking skills, and God forbid they actually teach their kids critical thinking skills.
What a shame if they did. Horrible. Oh God. Yeah.
Like, if kids were actually taught the basics of critical thinking skills, and then like the core rubric afterwards. Like, I've met 13-year-olds, 9-year-olds who were in community college because they could do it. You just had to teach them how to study and how to ask questions and how to learn, and then their brain can take over from there. And if they have a challenge in certain areas, you can learn that and then find accommodations or supports or extra time to do that. I say this as someone with privileged who's had that, but I do believe that that's possible for other schools. It's just difficult given how funding is allocated, which is one of the reasons I went to school, to learn why is funding so trash? Why is this like this? And it's really classist, and it's a guise for other things, and it's really sad because we have now this new element of technology that has completely, and the pandemic, which heightened it, completely has changed socialization and like social norms. And like I'll talk to my students. I'm a high school counselor right now for my internship, and it's in Inglewood, where a lot of these students, they like feel uncomfortable to communicate in person, but they feel more comfortable to communicate via a DM or like a Instagram message or TikTok before they go in person and be like, hey. And I'm over here thinking to myself, I'm like, all right, I'm also Gen Z, but I would way prefer to go up to someone in person before I like stalk their Instagram and contact them. Like, I don't know.
Well, we grew up like right on the edge.
We did.
Because I'm 25 too.
Yeah.
So like you graduated in
2019.
2019. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was 2018. We were like right on the edge of, I mean, what? Instagram 5th grade. I mean, I was using AIM like with my friends for like 1st to 3rd or 4th grade.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely now it's completely changed. I mean, even I think the study is like 40% of people don't go up and, you know, try to like have a conversation with somebody that they find attractive or whatever it might be. It's yeah, I have a one comedy bit that my one friend, he always needs like the alley-oop with women. Like he needs someone to pass him the ball to then go like.
He always needs a wingman.
Not even like a wingman. Like he will never go like take the shot for himself. He needs like somebody else to do it. Aww. Yeah, it's and then I just trash him in the bit. But I just mean cuz and I trash him in a way of like he's so good to talk to people. Yeah. But it's just it's that first wall. It's like when I wrote papers in high school, like for me personally, it was like the first 4 sentences after that I'm in a flow state. Like right. I'm hitting a different realm that can't even be like described, and a lot of people we have with ego and social norms and whatever technology, we've made this wall become like huge. Like before I think it was like that's hard, but now it's like it's way hard for most people to even think about to go over that wall, and so many different aspects. If it's doing what you want to do in business or you know, career, or sad to say socially, that's like the worst part, or even connecting with people. It's the wall that we build for ourselves.
Definitely. Like with your friend, it's interesting, he's able to have a conversation, but that first meeting, I'd be curious to learn like why that first meeting is so anxiety provoking for him.
I mean, rejection, right? I mean, that's what most people fear the most,
I guess, but handling rejection with grace,
100%.
That's sometimes a practice. I mean, in general, all socialization, it's just a practice of do you see me? I see you. Can you see me? And it's a lot of that. And seeing if there's different ways, like, I see you, can I connect with you? Because I see you. And some people, they're so caught up for whatever reason in this or whatever's out there that it's really hard for them to like get over that. I think that's
connecting is like a way other wall. That's like the first wall is like some people get over it, but then connection, that's like a whole other realm.
I mean, if
like
go ahead.
No, you go.
If I could throw away the phone forever, I'd be a happy camper.
I've tried. I have tried so hard.
Got a flip phone?
I got a flip phone.
How'd it go?
I spent $400 on a light phone that's just like it's like it looks like a first gen like Kindle, like it.
That's great.
Kindle?
Yeah.
Kindle?
Kindle? The Kindle like the
Kindle.
reader?
Kindle. Yeah, Kindle, my reading companion. No, I got one of those. It was.
Did it work?
It was really good for a while, and what made me I went back to a smartphone, but I got off social media for like a year, like completely got off of it. So I think it was a good precursor to what it was. I just realized like day to day, it's the other things that comes with getting a flip phone, right? You get a flip phone. Now you have to go back to like 2008 and you have a SanDisk, like an iPod in your car. You're downloading music off some like sketchy website to like play music in your car. And it's like cool. Like you definitely get more grounded, right? Like I brought a camera with me everywhere. Like I bought a Polaroid, and like you get all these like different aspects of it. But yeah, it was really hard with work too. I mean, that's all these things are just excuses, honestly. Like that's where I think we all need to be
but
at as a flip phone.
But it kept you back with keeping the phone.
Yeah, and it did, and it brought something good of like no social media for like a year.
Yeah.
And then, I just got a little bit of that, like, heroin taste of some short-form content, and then I'm just, like, my arm is ready, like, purple to the bone, like, shooting it up, you know? So, yeah, the phones are hard. If getting rid of, like, what you were saying, like, living on, like, a farm or, like, a ranch and being, like, self-sufficient, like, that is...
Sounds great.
It does. I think it would be really hard socially, but, like, for yourself, it's really good.
I still think it wouldn't be hard socially, but the hard part is maintaining that lifestyle is actually really, it's hard to do that by yourself. And it's hard to, even within your, like a family or whatever, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
And you have to build a community in that aspect. Like you would have to do some type of community. And then now you're like walking the line. Is it like culty? Is it not culty?
I don't know. So I actually think that idea is very interesting. That to what degree is something a cult? And there's a researcher, I forgot his first name, Dr. Hassan. He did a podcast with Trevor Noah, and he's an interesting story. So he's a Jewish guy from Northeast United States, and he got indoctrinated into a very weird Christian cult, and then they kept him long enough, and at some point he rose in the ranks and like became one of the leaders of that cult. And it wasn't until he got sick, he got out of the cult to have to go to the hospital, and the only person in his family who didn't accuse him of being in a cult was his sister. And he basically called his sister and said, "Hey, I'm in this hospital," and she's like, "Oh, you have a nephew now or a niece, and then, do you want to meet them?" And so he had to like really try and keep his brain like trained to not be decoded, basically, is what it basically was happening to him. So he had this code, he had mantras and things to keep him believing this doctrine he was believing in the cult. And it wasn't until he like read more about how the Chinese Communist Party controls people that he realized, shit, this is the same thing that happened to me. He's like, it was like, here's the model. Is this what's happening to you? And it totally threw him off. And he thought he was one of those people. I'm a smart person. I read several books a year. Like this will never happen to me. And then it happened to him, and it totally threw him through a loop. And now he's not only a psychotherapist, but he's a researcher about how cults work. He actually thinks that Trumpism has a cult within that self, and albeit it's much larger on a mass scale compared to other, smaller cults. But, culture is the root of that is cult. It's just a group. So what this doctor is saying, this psychotherapist researcher, he says is basically culture is on a spectrum, and it's basically from how controlling and lack of free will is there compared to how much free will is there allowed to be. And that is really important so that people can exercise questioning the higher power, or how power is kind of distributed across people, and that continual questioning is actually what allows the evolvement of not only ethics and values, but like our morality to be more than what it was centuries before. And that's great. That's important, to question power and question how it's distributed and see if there's other ways to rework that. Some people have really radical ways to go about it. Some people have more reformist ways. And that's something like in this social welfare program I'm in, there's people who believe in more reformist approaches to certain systems, and there's some people who have more abolitionist perspectives. And I didn't hear abolition like in common knowledge and spoken frequently until I was in more social welfare, social work spaces. And it's not talked about in systems that struggle, like with the way that it's currently working. For example, school systems, they're very carceral in nature, in the sense that they don't offer a lot of other chances, and instead of basically offering accommodations or understanding, there's usually like a lot of restrictions or penalties on students if they violate rules, which they shouldn't be doing. But like also, like, how are we going about that? Different schools go about that differently. But most are, pretty strict. Same with even if you go to the medical system. Medical system is like, do you have insurance? Do you not? The doctors are just there working within the system. It's the insurance companies and pharmaceutical companies that work together to see how, like, are people getting the services they need? If they're insurance, sure, but if they're not, sorry. Or you reached your limit, or you have a certain thing. Anyway, so there's a lot of things where some people are like, just the whole system, abolish the whole system altogether, and we'll see how that chaos works itself out. Then there's reformists who are like, no, let's slowly do this. And then that is also not helpful, because then there's other ways. So it really just depends. I can't say one way is the right or not. But certainly those conversations are very difficult to have, especially when people in power are too incompetent to have a conversation for long enough to focus.
I definitely agree. I think the biggest thing of it, and it's not even just cults, but just religion, is like,
yeah.
I always said this. The problem with religion, I think a lot of organized religion, it's just the umbrella effect. It's like every single person can go underneath this thing. Like, no matter who you are, which does have its pros, but it does have its cons of, right? I think me spiritually, I've found that you have to find those answers within yourself more than looking to a scripture. I think they have
That's
great, I don't want to call them morals, but I guess guidelines to follow or whatever it might be. Mm-hmm. But like what you're referring to is like people have to be shepherds more, but there is way more sheep on this planet. So more people will join something without having free will, unless in a time of chaos. That is when they feel that their free will is being challenged compared to before. It's like you're riding a ride and it's really cool, and now like you feel a bolt kind of shaking and you're like, I'm gonna actually get off this ride now and like take a look at the whole ride and inspect the whole thing, because compared to people looking at it before, like, hey, maintenance on this ride maybe, or you hear a lot of people, the saying is like, it's not really like a saying. There's definitely a saying for it, but it's lost my mind. But in times of like hardship is like where you'll see people change their whole. They'll join a cult. They'll join a church. They'll join a religion. They'll think logically.
Yeah.
And most of the times I've seen this is when people go through hardship. Instead of now, you'll meet somebody that was maybe a scientist for their whole life thinking logically. A death in the family, something traumatic happened to them, and now they're completely an emotional person. Like they've completely shifted to like a whole nother aspect of it, because of trauma or something's hard, or you're taking out and looking at yourself. I think that's what we need to teach in school more. Just like you said, just thinking in general. I don't know. I don't even think we teach thinking. Not even any depth of, you go to thinking for forever, but even just the start of it, it's just more of, do the equation like this, or do this job like this, and then this will come out of it. How is it going to look like with getting that job, or getting the tax, doing the taxes of that job, or dealing with the people at that whatever it might be. So
yeah, I always thought to myself, like, why don't we actually learn what each kid is interested in, what they have their skill sets in or not, and put them in those environments to see how they can exercise those skills, because there's different kinds of intelligences, and that's why we need to learn what is everyone's certain type of intelligence, especially today when there's technology really taking up all these efficiency jobs, these jobs that require a lot of higher level thinking, that you used to need a really formal degree for, but now we're needing more people. And this is my opinion, is that we need far more people in the service industry. And I think in service, a lot of people can connect to their spirit. And this is what all ancient teachings go to any doctrine, Buddhism, Christianity, Judaism, like the Vedic texts, like go all over the world. They're going to talk about service. And service is where you can find the spirit, because it's that moment again where you're like, oh, I see you. Do you see me? And because I see you, let me act in a way that will help bring harmony to this environment. And especially in environments that are really hard to be in, acting in service to another, it takes you out of yourself. And that's really huge, because especially in Western society, we're all about talking about ourselves and being about ourselves and do best for yourself to get farther than that other person. And it's not about that. I mean, when you start really being on the journey, I mean, those who are the most arrogant make it about that. But those who actually have the most humility, who are oftentimes the most kind and what feels like the most joyful, are the ones who can know how to step out of themselves to be in service. And that becomes like a spiritual, purpose-driven endeavor where you want to apply a doctrine onto it and not. I think that's a really beautiful thing that a lot of people can connect on collectively, is that agreement that we're all human, having a human experience, and that's what makes us realize there's a spiritual element to it. I think I have the hardest time sometimes trying to talk to people who are so logistically thinking they're atheists. They're like, we're just humans. Sorry, I've been in, or everything's predetermined. There's this one scientist named Robert Sapolsky, and he's like, everything's predetermined. There is no free will. You're a product of your environment, period. And everything that biologically was passed down to you makes it even more the case that your environment acted on those genes for you to just be that way, and there is no free will. And it's like,
that's so sad.
I know.
That's just a sad way of thinking.
Yeah, but I see his perspective as a scientist, but as someone who has the privilege to connect with other people, and sometimes their most vulnerable moments, and have had the privilege to listen to some of their biggest challenges in their lives, I deeply respect how that is a spiritual moment, and that vulnerability of being human with a spirit inside you, which is like, why are you still even here? What's the point? There's something else. There's that light. There's like, oh, I see you. I see that glimmer in your eye. I see that heart that you have, and the heaviness in your heart, or the joy, even connecting to that joy. Ooh, that's like what makes it all worth it through all the suffering. So yeah, I do think that spirit level is never talked about in Western society, because it's like, we must be secular. There's a separation of church and state, and I'm not saying that's bad. It's good to have separation of church and state, but I think that completely removing people from community is what the school system has been designed to do, because it's basically designed according to something called the Prussian model. It's a military model. It's a factory model, to just pump people in, pump them out, to serve the economy. And okay, that sounds great. But now the economy has changed because of technology. It wasn't serving our students best before, but it's especially not going to anymore because of technology. And we have a bunch of old people in office right now, so they're not going to be able to make decisions that can actually be thoughtful about that. But I definitely believe I didn't have hope before when I left undergrad. A bunch of professors told me to take gap years, which were growth years for sure. And that's where they told me I would find my hope. And I did. I did find my hope there. And it was finding community, finding service, and remembering my why I exist. Because that's a lot of kids today have every reason to feel like they don't have a why. I guess that makes me curious. What is your why for staying here and doing what you do? Ooh.
The universe is not trying to make me talk. It's like, whoa, that's too deep. No. So someone is listening. Someone else is in the room right now. Potentially.
There's many things in the room right now.
What is my why? I really it can't get out of my brain is just like connection with people. I mean, I was in a state of like zero connection like for say like probably like a year or so due to like romantic relationships, bad kind of friendships I had, and relationships with other people. And I think that for a long time I just didn't connect with people, and I think that's a big reason like why I have this podcast is even if it's a lighthearted conversation or it's something more like this of kind of, you know, slowly going down the path of just diving deep, just craving that connection with people. I've also found my why like helping people is a big like aspect of it, and I definitely do that in my like day-to-day with the little ones, but I know in the back of my head I should be doing something, I mean, like as beautiful as like what you're doing with like helping people in a high school environment, or like literally getting to like communicating like with people. But I'm a slave to how you were when you're young. You know, I'm worried about the money, I'm worried about the job, you know, in my day-to-day career. But, you know, I know in my heart those things that bring you joy and not make you feel like a robot for sure. And, you know, not to lose those. And it's a weird balance. It's not a perfect science that I figured out, but I try to slowly try to balance that marathon all the time of, you know, it's so easy to just be, especially in my job, it's like subcontracted work. So, you know, it's not like 9 to 5 at 5 o'clock. You're like, hey, I'm going home now. It's like, I used to work like night shift at like 3 a.m. I get a call, I go. So, you know, you can kind of constantly be on, and that's a big reason why I was losing connection with people, because I was so, even just talking to customers, it was so like, hey, how are you? So you want to do this, and that? We're going to get you up and going. You're going to be good. And then I'm going to get out of here. And a sprinkle of times something would happen, and, you know, it would kind of bring me back down to a level of not a heightened state of not even anxiety, but just go and like talk to people. So yeah, I think it really boils down to like connection, honestly, because I lost that for so long. And obviously there's a laundry list of things that I can bring to the world and the world can bring to me, but I think that's like what I currently crave the most. How about yourself?
I think that's really beautiful.
Thank you.
The connection resonates with me is that curiosity because you never know what the next day is going to hold, quite frankly. You can have routine, and some people probably more so than others, especially if they don't connect with other humans or even animals. Let me say that. You're
like, red flag if someone is not good with dogs.
Well, maybe for me, that's a red flag. But for other people, no, it's not a red flag if you can't connect.
No, it's a red flag. Those other people are wrong. those
Right?
other people are wrong. I've met people like walk into a house and just like
They look at the dog.
they're about to fucking kick the dog to the other side of the field. Like that's what it looks like.
That's trauma. That's something else.
That's what it looks. I mean, yeah, it's trauma, but like again, if one dog bites you, like not every dog is gonna. Most dogs I've met are cool. It's like most people. Most people are.
Unless they've had some trauma and then they're all mean to you. And they're like, ah. You're like, I'm sorry, I just showed up here.
But also too, like I'm not a dog whisperer, but I have seen those people online that can like connect with a dog that's like crazy and like under a minute.
Yeah.
Like it's just coming down to their to their level.
Yeah. I think that for me, I had to connect my why to a spiritual reasoning, but I mean without the spirituality, it's like the reason I'm here, there's got to be a reason that I had the chance. There's like I think a 1 in 4 trillion chance that you become a human. And I'm like, wow, what's the chances I ain't a dog? Like, I mean, that life seems a lot more, present, and like that seems like preferred. But then you're like, oh, I was given this gift of being in a human vessel. And like I told you before, like I've worked with non-speaking autistic adults or neurodivergent on a mass scale. And like a lot of people look at them with pity and like, oh, I'm so sorry you got these disabilities. Like they start talking to them like they're little kids and they're like full on adults, some of them older than the people who are treating them like they're babies. And just because I have the opportunity to connect with them and learn from them, like what makes them curious too is and like interested in this world is that connection. It goes back to that at the end of the day, like what makes you feel vitality, and like that is really beautiful. And like albeit there are people who can't connect to that and they really struggle with that, and there's their own stories for that reason, and that's fair. But I do see that there's a lot of remarkable beauty when two spirits in my perception is there's two lights and they're trying to find a charge together. And how can that be possible? Especially if in that environment there's a goal. So if there's like in an education environment, in a hospital environment, in a comedy environment, like there's a goal in that environment. Even in a home, what's the goal of that home? How is the whole family orchestrating around that, towards that goal of how they work together? What's the whole point? If it's to survive, then that's what that family looks like a little bit. If it's to just be joyous when you're together, that's what that family looks like. Or if it's just to be here now or be focused on the future only, like there's a lot of things you can see how the goals of an environment change how connections can happen in that space, and how people evolve learning, can I do that in different spaces? That's really hard. That happens for neurodivergent or neurotypical. And radical hot take, some people might say everyone's neurodivergent in my perspective, because everyone has a unique way of being brought up in the home that they're in with the biology that they have, and like what are the chances they're exposed to certain environments beyond that home. This is where I branch off from Sapolsky on, like, I think there's a spiritual reason behind why people get into certain environments versus not.
Do you think, I do like, you made so many good points. The first point is, like, everybody, I feel like, like a big thing, at least, like, shown in movies and such, is, like, you see someone that has like autism or like neurodivergent, and they're like socially not there. And I think that's such a big thing that people just like see, like we've built these fucking boxes like in our life to just feel like it's all like and then when you're not doing that and you do something that isn't appropriate, that we have built to be inappropriate, right?
Yep.
Because for the most part, what I've seen with kids, and I've seen a couple adults, but mostly kids, because those are the most like people I've worked with, is like right or like these things that we have ingrained in us that I think that we're born with, of like stealing from somebody or like harming somebody. I think we're all ingrained with that.
Yes.
And for the most part, if you see after they're like de-escalated, they feel bad.
Yeah.
Now, if they like ran a red light in a car that they were driving, they might never even think twice about it.
Right.
If they talk about, right, in a social environment, I knew one kid that would his dad died, and like that was his thing. Like within the first 15 seconds of you talking to him,
Interesting.
it would get brought up. And it's like socially, that's like a weird thing that we've made, that like you kind of have to like take him out to lunch first. But like, but the point is like we've made these like weird little like things to like, I don't know. And I think that they're they have those, but society, we've made it that it's like so wrong socially. So then we like look at them, and obviously there's different aspects of like right. There's a verbal part of it, of a sensory thing, and but yeah, I think we all don't like get enough exercise or go out. So like stimulation is like a huge thing. Like I saw the kids, like they're squeezing on to like those squishy balls or whatever, because they, feel overwhelmed, or maybe they need to go outside or whatever it might be. And we don't allow that to happen in the real world. So then we see, because we're all different, weird in our own ways, that it like it's looked frowned upon, because it's, and especially these systems were made before. Something else you were talking about was like, now it's way worse with jobs, because back in the day, like most of our parents and our parents' parents, it's like you work 30 years at a place.
Yep.
You get a fucking Rolex at the end,
or
and
pension.
Like,
That's
or
all
a
you
pension,
need.
and like
bare minimum.
people are like, okay, it's like I put so much trust into this higher being that's like putting a digital dollar in my account, or like paying me a check, and now we've shifted so much to like, and I think that an interesting fact of that is like what you were saying is like people are so much about themselves, because now it's like as we become more in tuned with everybody becoming on, everybody going and being viewed at like the same scale, right, with like cancel culture or such, it goes to like, hey, I'm gonna protect my peace, and like I'm not gonna let this job do this or do that. And it's a scary it's a scary tornado that just never ends. I feel like it's so, and education doesn't help it. And
no,
one thing you did say that I want to ask you, like, do you think in your life you've lived like in the present more, the future, or the past?
Ooh, most of my life I've lived in the future. I was trained to, like, by the time I was homeschooled, I started being homeschooled around 7.5. So like right after first grade, or so maybe 8 going on to 9, something like that. Yeah, I was always kind of brought up, okay, what are you gonna do? How are you gonna get there? What do you need to do to get there? And if you don't want to do that, what are you gonna do next? Like, I originally wanted to do fashion design. Like, I had the opportunity to do hundreds, maybe even thousands of fashion designs, like all day, in addition to getting my schoolwork done, which I could get done basically between like 9 and 12. And like I could do more if I wanted to, but like I basically could finish the books early because I wasn't on public school time with a bunch of other kids. So, and then by the time I started community college, at 15, my sister started at 13. But like when I was 15, I started community college, and that was when I started getting my GEs, and I was like, okay, this is what I need to get my AA, and this is what I need to and I was like constantly trained to think about the future, which is also what gave me the paranoia and depressed feelings I had at 13, that felt a lot very validated. Like, it's like, why do I have a problem? I have everything going for me. It's like, yeah, I'm homeschooled. I got everything I need, you know. And so still questioning when I see through a screen violence, when I see chronic war, when I see that it, you know, the environment is destroyed and that we're SOL at this point. So I struggled with that a lot. And I even questioned when I was 20 years old, I went to university and I had this moment where I was like, oh, I don't want to have kids anymore. What's the point? Like, there's not going to be a world. So I just need, that's it? I think I'm good. And I had this, I was living alone that moment, and I did this thing called the Wim Hof method, where it's this really heavy breathing. And my first time doing it, I was like, wow, this is exhilarating. Like, I felt like in a different headspace without taking a substance. And I did it for like 10 rounds, and it was very intense.
It's a quick breathing, right? It's like a quick breathing. Yeah. And
you really put a lot of oxygen in your lungs, and then you completely exhale. And I felt like at the end of that, after I exhaled and I stopped breathing, I had a question to me at like, something asked me like, do you want to still be here? And I was like, nah, I'm good. I'm done. I had enough. I think that's it for me. And I had this moment where like something bigger than me just told me that there's a lot more for me to learn and experience. And I like shot back down and I like slammed my third eye. Like this, like, it was immediate. I wasn't even thinking. I was just like, like, I was just like, it's like coming to, like, you just almost drowned, basically. And I realized, oh shit, there is a lot for me to learn. And there's a point to this present moment. And since then, I started practicing meditation, and I consistently lean back into that present moment. And the only time I think about, oh my gosh, that is so funny. Anyways,
like, I've done all these and they never do anything, and now we're like, keep going. Keep going. That's crazy.
So I was
like put in a clip of it like later. There's just like
right. Okay. It's every time we're talking about these deep moments about why we're here. Those boxes are falling. Yeah, the why we're crazy. Here. I believe that we walk with spiritual presences all the time because it's been shown to me and many experiences, especially with the neurodivergent community, like they just continue to validate that with me, because we're able to pick up more things than what people are so desensitized to. But yeah, that's also what heightened me to that present moment, is like connecting to that. The only time I think about the future is really like looking at the news, or like talking to other people about their future. Like, do they believe they have a future? Because especially with some of the populations that I work with, they don't. They're here now. They're kind of living in the past, and that informs their present moment, and that is their future. And they don't know where they're gonna go, and that's also concerning to completely disregard the future, because then you're like, well, then why try and be doing anything right now? You could do fuck all. You could do nothing. And there are a lot of people who do nothing all day because they can't be, the present moment is so painful because the past is so painful. So how could they possibly think about the pain of the future? Which, as I mentioned to you, the pain of the future got me so depressed. I was ready to be done. I had suicidal ideation. I was ready to like plan something out. But I stopped myself because I found this weird method that I was like, why not try this? All these people are saying this meditation stuff is, you know, the bee's knees. Like, that they find something. And there's people who take these hardcore drugs, but like that's artificially induced changing, altering your brain. So like, how can you naturally find a higher level of consciousness, is what they were saying, through breath and through present moment like activation, basically. So what the breath is, that breathing in and letting go, and the letting go reminding you of like what you can let go. And that's part of, my grandma related it to death, which I was like, she's funny about it, but you know, I thought it was really, that's what really grabbed me, to be, presence. And then falling in love, or seeing someone succeed, or like these, like, even really sad moments, like there's this beauty and pain that is like, or heavy, like working out, and you're like, and your body's like pulsating. Those present moments, that's what keep me here. And you don't know what's gonna happen in the next one. Like, we don't know when those boxes are gonna fall again.
That's so real. It's you know, I was the same way, and I was super, you know, I've done 1 or 2 drugs in my life before, and for a long time, you know, people always ask, like, you know, my sober friends were like, you know, why would you like take mushrooms to like experience like another level, or smoke weed, or like, you know, and everybody always says like, you know, the 4 fucking letter word, like numb, right? But I think numb is really like, it's like that present feeling again. It's like when you're taking, and it's with anything, right? Is we see it in day to day, but you never think about it. It's like you watch somebody like watch Netflix while doing homework. It's like you see it all the time. It's stupid, but it's like we don't even think about it day to day. It's like the person is trying to like stimulate to turn that thing off, to then be present in like what they're doing, or like you know, if I'm like listening to music compared to like maybe like watching a video or something, and I've realized with like cartoons it's a lot easier to like kind of like go in and out. Like when I'm in a movie, I'm just like diving in, I'm like focusing in. I'm definitely not the talker during the movie. Like maybe
I'm the talker.
You're the talker. I'm like the talker if it's like an understanding talker, or a fun, some of it. I definitely though am someone that's like in the movie. Yeah. But yeah, it's hard for me to like go in and out. It's not. Yeah. It's a lot. I'm either in it or like I'm out of it. It's very same. The gray in that area is super hard for me to meet. But I think like meditation, to swing back, I was like, what the like, okay, you hear a lot about it. What is it? So I was at a therapeutic boarding school for like a little bit. I wasn't the best kid growing up, or best kid is not the best thing. Maybe it was in trouble growing up. I was in trouble, and I wasn't in the right box, but being really cheesy with the box. But anyways, before I went there, I went to a wilderness program for like, it was like 13 weeks in like the Idaho desert, and super like, you would hike like 10 miles a day, and like be very in tune with your body. That was a big reason like how I got like in tune with my body, and kind of seeing myself in different lights. And we did a lot of meditation with like sound bowls. Oh, wow. And I think again, I'm just thinking about all these things where it's that same thing of like, you kind of hear the sound bowl, and now even though you're in an environment of, you know, you would think less compared to a worldly city environment, when you're actually in nature, your body starts to like transform, and it's like, I'm hearing a creek from way far. Like, I feel like if I go to like a creek now, I'm driving on the highway, I'm right there, I hear it roaring. But like when I was hiking these environments, you can hear it from a very far distance away. Like your body adjusts. And then with that, you know, you're doing these sound bowls, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna give it a shot. Like I'm gonna just kind of let go. It's like, you know, you let go, and I've tried a couple times like fast paced kind of breathing meditation, but it's really just been like slow kind of, which does take a lot longer, because I think again, it's like you're trying to reach that state of presence. But yeah, like I think sound bowls is like the same thing of, it helped me a lot with meditation. So I recommend people that like want to meditate. Sound bowls. And doing it in nature is like a whole other, I feel like that's a lot easier. Like your feet are grounded, like you're not even your feet, your feet are just the avenue. Like your whole body's grounded to the world. compared to just being super disconnected.
Absolutely. And do you think that practice helped you become more present than future oriented?
So when you said that, I liked what you said about like, you know, because I think a lot of people, from what I've seen and talk on this podcast a lot, it's like it's a pendulum. When they're younger, why does life feel so slow? Because in life more, you're looking at the future. So when you're looking at the future, you're like, fuck, like, I swear to God, 14 to 16, when I found out I could like, when I was like, okay, no, I'm doing this driving thing, it felt like 20 years. Because I was like, I want a car. I want to go like get out of my like tribe. Like my parents lived like, were a place where you couldn't really walk. It's like, you know, up a canyon, and I was like really wanted to, and those 2 years felt like forever. And I think as I was younger, I was a lot more looking in the future. And I think as we get older, what I've seen a lot of people do is like why it feels fast is because you're looking into the past. And, you know, being in the present is the best state, but, you know, a lot of the times we get, you know, stuck on one and the other. But I've talked to a lot of people that they're like, yeah, no, I was thinking about this, and this, and now like you're kind of getting there, but then you're here and you're like, all of that happened, you know, on the trail of it, you know.
Yeah, there's several points I love that you made, because for the meditation thing, I could never do a meditation that was, now you're at the beach, now imagine yourself walking on the beach. It was really those kinds of meditations that are telling me what to do, what to think, were really hard for me, which is why I went straight into what he coined as the Wim Hof method. It's a branch of actually some far more ancient breathwork technique. But anyways,
like a screaming meditation or like a...
No, I needed to do that heavy breathing.
Okay.
Because it got me out of my head.
Yeah.
And most of us are always chronically in our head and not present in our body or present to the moment. And slowing things down at that pace. Like, never in my life have I felt that way other than when I was drawing kind of experiences. And we also feel less and less present as we age. And part of the reason for that is that our brains are operating at a different frequency and in the waking moments. And so one of the reasons, for example, like babies can pick up so much information and have so much neuroplasticity and pick up everything that they're learning and have like so many millions and millions of connections at a time, is because their brain is operating also at a different frequency with different neurons. And as we age, those neurons get pruned more and more into certain pathways. For certain pathways of thinking, certain pathways of doing, certain pathways of being. And they operate our brain to be also at a different frequency. And it's really also what's fun to work with people who have autism or other forms of neurodivergence, is because you get to learn how they connect to that present moment. It's just a lot of hyper presence to everything that's happening, and connecting with them. you kind of get attuned to that as well in your brain, and that's the mirror happens in that moment. And it's interesting hearing your experience going into nature, because the same thing actually happens in nature. Not so much with these cardboard boxes. It's hard to feel there's a vibration off of them, but there's still matter.
I'm taking the floor out soon. Don't worry. It's
That's
just going to be
hilarious.
dirt. It's just going to be dirt.
Really? No way. That's amazing. But seriously, it would help.
No, I'm kidding. Yeah.
The ground does have a frequency.
Oh, of course.
Everything has a frequency, and
if I could do that, that would be
amazing.
Like, 'cause
you'd
that's
be
how you
very
really,
grounded in this space, beyond the boxes. Very grounded.
I feel it, like, not even just like, I haven't gone camping in a little bit, and I can feel my body like craving like nature. I mean, go on like walks and I go into parks, and that's like
with the cement and power lines around.
Yeah, it's like cement power lines.
The vibration off that
shit.
The
5G is like
terrible,
frying my brain maybe a little bit. The
For
Bluetooth
sure.
headphones, but
for sure.
Yeah, like I crave just like the no phone reception like campgrounds that I've been to.
Oh yeah, I mean I don't know, I've become very sensitive to it. I know that for a fact living in Los Angeles is hurting my health. It is hurting my health.
I say that all the time. I agree.
But you know, I'd say also, like, if there's a time for me to do that, I guess it's my 20s, because I wanted to do that later, and I'll have the means to not be doing that later, because that it hurts. It really does hurt, and I'm in awe and shock of people able to do that and can function like over time, long term, without feeling chronic stress doing that. Because it's
they do. They just don't.
Yeah,
they're not.
They do. They do. They do.
They're just not. They just don't. They're just in. And we got to put an autopilot. Like, it's not being.
Present.
Yeah, it's not being present. It's being super disconnected.
Yes. Yeah. And so that is what resonates with me, is that that's what's necessary.
Yeah.
But we don't have a lot of that practice. It's obviously not in schools. Again, lack of critical thinking, lack of presence, lack of skills and tools to offer that presence. I think the only ways you can really get back into that presence is practicing connection and creativity, which is just curiosity to try and be here. That's really hard, especially if people's brains have been more and more prone to think about the future, the past, or how those combine to stop people from being in the present, which is where these meditations come in.
I want to get into like how you started with like working with kids that are like that, but I do also want to know, do you see yourself trading a lot of like in your life for like something that you want? Like, right, you're like in my 20s, right? Because you're kind of trading something off.
Oh yeah.
You're trading like being present, your peace, sanity, even, you know, like whatever it might be, for something. Because I've caught myself so much like trading it off, if it's for money, if it's for, you know, doing, you know, I've seen a lot in my life of, it's like we think the shortcut will be like beneficial, but you're actually just like, the shortcut just goes to the mountain that's like, you just see the peak at like, you know, see like Half Dome compared to like the top of the mountain,
right?
You know, do you see yourself trading a lot for that in your life?
I don't want to say a lot because I can't put a quantity onto it. I think for me, I listened a lot to where my presence was needed, wanted, and honored. And then realizing also when, for the skill set I have and the knowledge I have, I did need another degree for people in this system that we're living in to listen to what I have to say, and for me not to be a charlatan, because we have plenty of those in this world, and charlatans really upset me.
Charlatans are like
people who call themselves coaches, or people who call themselves these like these certain academics, and even people who have a doctorate. Let's say that people who have a doctorate, people
that just want to sell like their course online,
right? And they're I sometimes will say, like, sometimes a D stands for dumbass. Like, really, like, I mean, you talk to these really amazing professors even at some universities, and you're like, Jesus, did you really just say that? Like, you're like, and you're okay. And this is where, talking to plenty of medical doctors in my life, and I'm like, are you serious right now? Like, you're a doctor and you have authority to make decisions for people's healthcare like this? Yeah. So,
but I mean, there's no board, right, of getting into it, right? I mean, it's all just on, like, if you're a doctor and something goes bad, again, this is our system where it's like, when it goes south, it's like, we will have this system that will, you know, go after you. But before, like, to be a doctor, I mean, you go through the schooling,
right?
And then in some doctor, if I'm not mistaken, you take tests or like specialize in the thing. But for the most part, it's not someone watching you, right, all the time.
Not all the time. Yeah. And so this is where I talk about charlatans being like people who claim things or say things but given their experiences, like they're not really challenging their beliefs or don't have people to report how they're practicing using their services.
Challenging is such the key.
Yeah. And like even people who have like a lot of experiences in a particular modality of their skill set, they'll like claim certain things and they won't challenge their own belief systems, or they won't listen to people who say, yeah, that really wasn't helpful for me, or I need to report for something that you did. So people who are charlatans, who aren't part of these licensures and accreditation boards and certain modality of practices, they can't be reported on because they're not affiliated with those boards. And so if they are licensed and accredited, they can be reported on, and it's onto the board which has research professionals to all look at that and review, well, is this up to standard or not? So like I can give like several examples for this, but like one is like, for example, like Dr. K practicing therapy that he didn't call therapy, but one woman I listened to, she's a psychologist. She's like, it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, acts like a duck. It's probably a duck. And it's kind of what was happening on his podcast. It's like, well, yeah, he needed to have his, licensure reviewed because someone he would talk to who he was technically not giving therapy, but sort of looking like giving therapy, and it being broadcasted, like, is that ethical for him to do that? And I do think it's really important to do that. And so I'd say most doctors are great, but stuff happens, and those who claim to have knowledge and aren't even affiliated with the breadth of knowledge, they're at risk of harming people. And the whole point of helping people is to do no harm and to try your best to hopefully serve them and rather than harm them. That's the main thing. So for my skill set, which is I know how to connect with people, listen to them, learn from them, and see how we can work together, and like how me in that relationship with them can support them within systems. So I really have a lot of breadth and depth knowledge of learning about systems of education and for services for people with disabilities. Like I have a lot of knowledge in that given my lived experiences. And I could have become an occupational therapist. I could have been a speech and language pathologist. I could have been a teacher. And I feel like I can take a little bit from all of these modalities in addition to counseling. And, some people might consider it behavioral therapy. I don't practice formally behavioral therapy, so I wouldn't say I do that. I almost became a registered behavior technician in ABA, but then I was like, I don't want to go down that route. So I kind of just learned from all these other practitioners and their families and the individuals I was serving. Okay, what works best for you? What supports you? What doesn't? What do you want? What do you not want? Let's create goals and a plan to make that happen, and I'll be with you in these present moments, or I'll supervise someone who's going to do that to make that possible for you. So I needed and I have all this knowledge of these systems and resources. Like, how am I going to actually implement those and work with other interdisciplinary teams and do this in an ethical way while not being called like a charlatan? And also giving these, so right now I'm in my social welfare program, which is different than social work, but I'm going to be leaving with master's in social welfare, but I will be able to get licensed in social work. So I'm going to apply at the end of my second year. I'm almost done with my first year in the master's program. The end of my second year, I'll be able to apply for an associate's in social work, which will give me, it's like pre-licensure. And that pre-licensure sounds so technical talking like this, but like that pre-licensure is what is going to allow me to have access to different therapy modalities, to different colleagues in networking. It'll give me access to different resources that are available, and I'll basically be certified in the fact that I'm going to be trained. Now, some people dispute in the field whether or not it's very whether we should have all these certifications and these trainings to prove how good we are at doing the work that we're doing. But just because I've met really people who are licensed and people who have D's at the end of their name, and they're still dumbasses. They're still saying stupid shit, or they're really insensitive without any cultural humility. They don't know how to show up with presence, or there's got to be some reporting body you got to go to.
Yeah, for sure.
And you have to make sure if they're doing a certain clinical modality, are they doing that in an ethical way that does little to no harm? Like, ideally no harm. Like, how can we make sure of that? And that is something, especially on the internet now, where people just claim shit. Like, people who are, like, have no background in mental health have these audacious things to say, and telling people what they should and shouldn't do. People will buy into it if they connect to that person. So we should have safeguards for how people connect to other people, or bots even, which includes AI, which is doing therapy. And I had to ask a AI therapist, really, well, what if you can report me? What does that look like? How is that reviewed? How is your modality? You really have to question the higher order thinking behind that. And this is where collective bodies are really helpful, research bodies. If multiple brains can come together and make a decision on something from their clinical experiences that inform how a clinical moment happened, so necessary. I think that's where I need to get these letters so that I can further learn, have resources, have a network of people, but also be held accountable, which is what every professional should want, is to be held accountable to do as little to no harm as possible.
I think the hardest thing that I think about being, and I am not at all, I've had a smidget of the mental health side of it, is that the thing that actually helps people is so fluid. So I think to even it's such a great idea, and when you say it, I'm like, fuck, that sounds so cool. But it's how do you even, right? Because what we do usually, and how I've seen, and correct me if I'm wrong if it's changed, but me growing up, I had an IEP at a very young age. Mm-hmm. I was diagnosed ADHD, dyslexia, ODD, all of these different aspects of it. And it's most of the time what I saw is the doctor comes in, sits down, and is okay. It's now we have to do the legal jargon.
Yep.
It's now we have to take that a body of people made.
Yep.
And now we have to take this legal jargon.
Yep.
Which it pretty much is legal jargon.
Is legal jargon.
And there is some aspects of when you're taking these tests that I've seen that you can have growth from it, and people can understand you more, because a lot of it, I think, and not to be rude, it's kind of deception. It's look here, but what's really going on here, It's that's how they really, it's not a God shoe thing. This isn't Catch a Predator, but it's look here. Now, what are you feeling? What's going on here? With ODD, I know sometimes in the questions they're very they start you off slow. And then 7 questions in, they're if it's an ADD or an ODD, it's do you have feelings towards someone, or it goes back to feelings in this fluid state. So yeah, I would be really interested to see how you can bring that Eastern medicine to it, because right now what I've seen, it's like a lawyer. It's hire a bunch of paralegals, and then I'm gonna go and I'm gonna do the thing that nobody can really talk about when you're in a courtroom of holding a crowd, talking to people, bringing up facts, bringing up specialists, connection, and a multitude of things. Because right now the system that I've seen, it's it's the war system that you were talking about, and it's really hard. And there was not even, I would say there's like maybe like one highway like that like connects like the testing to the actual what's going on. But I think that we need to somehow like bring those together and definitely make it like, because it's such a fluid state of
it is
helping people with whatever it might be to then actually put it into it. And a lot of it, which is scary, is the system, because it's like, right, it's like, okay, you get diagnosed with something, now you're going to get funding, now you're going to get a drug, now it's like the system itself is like, it's really hard because you need to have, right, it's like, if you want to go on Ozempic, it's like, the doctor somehow has to tell you that you have fucking diabetes, even though if you don't. So, yeah, I don't know. I'd be interested to know and kind of like how you feel about it. Of like, how do we honed in that like fluid state of helping people?
It's actually one of the things I've had the biggest frustration about. I'm curious, before I go into that, how did you feel when you were asked those questions from... And when was it different with certain practitioners asking you these questions?
It was
all the same.
It was literally...
How did it feel?
So, one of the first ones I ever took was, I think, for my IEP. So, gosh, it's been so long. But, shapes, questions, math, like math questions, society questions.
Yeah.
That one... And the lady I took it with, it just felt like she was going through the steps.
Yep.
All right, here we go. And here, and here, and what does this thing look like? And I'm like, maybe a Pokemon? Like, I don't really know. Like, I don't, that looks like a dog. Like, is, and you know what? I think those testings are good because, like, if you find a psychopath in those things, like, honestly, that's amazing. Like, that's a great thing. Like, I don't want a school shooter to somehow fall through the cracks. So like if everybody had that, that would be cool, because you definitely can get some things from it, but I think it's really hard to relate it back. How I felt in those, it's how they presented it, right? It's like if an OT brings you a really fun activity, people are engaged. If I remember, like we did this like weird like volleyball thing, I don't know, that you're like connecting, and I don't remember all the rules with it.
But they assess how you respond, and like what that looks like.
And you're bringing like a fun aspect of it, too. But every single test I did, it was like, it felt like work, and work is good. Hardship is good.
Yeah.
But like if I'm like, all right, and we're about to talk for a couple hours about, are you really excited, right? You know, it's like making it like kind of like, and I'm not always the best at it with even in the podcast environment, whatever. But you know, I always felt in those testing environments, it felt like they were going through a drag too. And when they're going through the drag, it's like, why the fuck would I want to go through this drag?
So true.
As well.
Yeah. So that was something I've had to navigate, doing certain questions that are standard questions to assess, right? Is this person depressed? Or even like an intake. Oh, I hate the way a lot of intakes are. Because, like, what it is these standards of questions, and they don't have a great flow.
Horrible.
Horrible. There's no flow. Because it's structure.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point of it. It's a standard test. And so...
Umbrella effect. Work for everybody.
That's right.
Yeah.
But it's on the practitioner to make it flow.
Yeah.
And so depending on who I'm with, I will adjust how the flow goes. So I may like the way I preface each section of the testing. And
one point that I just want to say about like testing is like we need to also like put it in like different categories. Like we're putting motor tests in like standardized testing.
Yeah.
Which like I guess is okay, but like most people aren't going to have motor problems. Like, from what I've seen, like, most people, like, that is, like, in a high, intense situation with different illnesses or different mental health things. And I feel like we just group it together. Sorry to cut you off. But
no, I'm with you. And, like, that's actually what I kind of help my clients, whoever they are, why I would be doing some of these tests is like, well, I'm doing this with you because it'll give us a foundation for how we can work together. These are the things the areas I will be asking you about. And I'm going to let you know, and some people may not agree with this, and it may be differential depending on who it is, but I'm like, you cannot have an answer. You can say, I don't know, or no. And I'm going to give you that option.
That's really good.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever got that.
I don't think they're supposed to with some of the testing it sounds like you got. And I say this again as an intern in a social welfare program where I believe that I should document things that can also protect my clients. So like on an intake, I have to ask if they're gang affiliated. And I have said them, I said, I can understand that actually gang is community and that means belonging and protection. And that's why I asked. I'm not asking to do this punitively. And this documentation is only going to me and the other therapy supervisors, so it will not be going anywhere else that I know of. It'll only be relevant when I as a mandated reporter, there's a legal jargon here, I as a mandated reporter, if you tell me that your safety is at risk for XYZ, all this stuff, right? So it's telling them this with full disclosure, authenticity, and humility, and knowing that they're human and they can also, I don't condone them to lie. I condone them to express however they want to express. And I think that's really important in the human world to do that.
Yeah.
And as far as like when I think of even for, let me say, neurodivergent individuals and I walk into a medical space, they immediately, depending on who the practitioner is and how the practitioner approaches them, will shift how they show up to that space.
Of course.
And like anybody, if someone treats you like you're less than or don't understand, or if someone treats you like they're testing you, you're probably going to show up differently in your body and feel differently in your body and your brain. And acknowledging that with a lot of humility, like, oh, I'm not trying to test you. I'm wanting to learn from you. Let's practice this, or let's try this out, versus, all right, can you show me this? How is this getting done? What do you know? Kind of idea, which a lot of testing can get to. And a lot of people who make their living off of these standardized tests, like, you can make bank, like, diagnosing, like, kids. It's just like, or anyone.
Amount.
Oh my God. Yeah.
You're the specialist that comes in.
Yes.
I mean, it's kind of came to the point of like, you're kind of the hero, right? I mean, we can now fucking label you. Now we can like, I'm not, and it's good sometimes, but like, this is where I get scared of like Western medicine because it's in people with, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but with people in times of hardship. I mean, I've been in hardship and it's like, you want an answer. Mm-hmm. And it's like, if that is ADHD, if that's, oh, it makes all sense. Oh yeah, perfect now. And then what happens, it loops it right into Adderall, and it's whatever it might be, or if it's even kids you work with, if it's, well, now we're going to get you someone an hour a week or whatever it is. I don't know. The test, we got to do something. And then it also, I want to know this, what do you think? Do you think that do you ever do the test later, or is it's always, the intake's right in the beginning, huh?
I'm going to say it's supposed to be at the beginning.
It's always okay. But hypothetically, in a hypothetical
place, I could choose to do it at later sessions.
Would you choose in a hypo? Yes. Okay.
So, but
you have never,
I cannot confirm or deny that I have done an intake immediately upon meeting the client. So, and that's just, especially with neurodivergent individuals, like,
oh yeah, no way.
You can't, that's like ruining the rapport immediately. For sure. I'm here to test you. What are your parents' goals? I don't care about your goals. Like, what? Like, I've experienced that time and time and time again. Yeah,
on that, it's such a heightened state. Being in that environment, you have
people coming in and out all the time. Who are there to what? Help you. Mm-hmm. Bitch, I'm gonna be ODD, which is, I think, almost a fucking fictional disorder in my perspective.
I mean, I agree.
It's like, and again, it's diagnosing individuals but never looking at the environments. And we go back to it again. It's like, what are the systems that are creating brains and bodies even to have a assigned value? Why is that the value that it's assigned as higher or lower? This is why I also don't understand when people say high or low functioning, like
I haven't
autism.
heard that in so long.
Yeah, people have
I
used
forgot
that.
about that.
They still use it, high and low functioning. I mean, people still use the R word very flagrantly with the community. And yeah, I never understood that because everyone's got different skill sets. And like, there's different reasons some of these skill sets are stronger versus others. And there's a lot of things people have as coping mechanisms. And that they were healthy or adaptive at some point, and they've become maladaptive. And like, going back to even like talking about drugs and that being a artificially induced present moment state, it's at the point when it becomes an addiction where it's maladaptive anymore. It's not adaptive. It's not helpful to do that anymore. Or in that moment, it's not helpful to do that. So why is that? I liken addiction to being like a wet blanket. You put it on because it's familiar and you see it, but it's still wet. But because it's familiar and weighted now, it's like, oh, at least it's there because I'm used to it. And so a lot of people don't question, well, why do we even grab the wet blanket in the first place? And that's when, and this is oftentimes the case if we're talking about kids, like diagnosing kids, you oftentimes have to look at what are the environments around them in addition to their biological propensity that's acting on their biology. Like, what is helping them, what's not helping them.
Nurture versus nature.
It's both.
It's both. But we put it into, and I think for most of the time what I've seen is that like it's so much easier to not, especially right, these parents, 'cause that's such a big thing, your parents' goals, right? It's like I've seen that in a lot of environments of you're kind of giving like your, I don't even want to say hope, but whatever it might be, your goals to somebody else. And a lot of the time now we're creating this environment where it's, for the most part, we talk a lot about nature from what I've seen, when it is a lot of like nurture. And like, we definitely, I think from what I saw, that like end of most treatment plans in the place I was with, it was like nurturing was a lot less talked about. It was like maybe at my place, most people stayed for like a year and a half. And it was like maybe the last couple months you would actually talk about home environments. When you get home, if you were hanging out with bad people, don't hang out with those. It's like, it's a lot of that, like, you're kind of getting out of here, and here it is. And I saw it with a lot of high function and low function is like a weird word, but to say it's, and I want to know what you think of it. I saw a lot of nurture. I mean, at least in that, like, it was a lot more, and you heard nature more, but a lot more nurture of, all right, this kid grew up, rough environment, maybe was really surrounded around family a lot. So now socially with random people, it is so scary to them because, some of these kids were 9, 8 years old, 10, 11, whatever, that they were never in that environment of being around other kids compared to just their, handful, their 10-mile radius or whatever of however many friends they had in that, if any. And it's something that needs to be, I think, at the forefront compared to, because it's so easy to just blame it on nature, like, it's so, if I'm just like, hey, like, life sucks because of this, or God did this to me, or like, you kind of like let that go, compared to the real work is like, no, I gotta actually the parent has to change shit, you have to change shit, you have to think of things differently. You have to access different things that you might not even think are real. Like, you don't think, you think the way you're communicating, you think the way that you're connecting, the way that you're doing whatever it might be, is you have to turn that all around, and it's barely even I think looked at, which is
Agreed. I mean, well, that's the hard part, because then you'd actually, let's just put this, let's focus on the topic of it being kids being diagnosed, which we're getting more and more kids diagnosed today. One, because of access, and two, because it's usually needed to try and figure things out. But yeah, that also would mean asking the parents to really be involved in that, and the parents having the privilege of mental health to know how to do that, and them also having the systemic supports for their mental and physical health to be addressed.
Now there's 3, 4, 5, 6 people going to therapy at the same time as one, or whatever it might
This
be.
is where they're like, oh, this society's too therapized. But the real thing is, it's a really psychologically sick society to ask families to be gone most of the day away from their kids, and to have to work to make money to provide for their kids going into environments where they don't know who they're with. They're hoping the teachers can educate all of the students, and if they're in a public school, we're talking dozens and dozens of students in one classroom with a teacher who may or may not be able to handle that, and they're underpaid on top of all of that to be gone for most of the day, only to try and make ends meet and come back together. And this is not including exercise, this is not including nutrition, this is not including their community development and who's in their lives. Because, like, truthfully, if we're looking at a psychologically healthy society, which are typically smaller societies, more collectivistic societies, they cover all the pillars of well-being. The pillars of well-being are physical well-being and environmental well-being. There's financial well-being and occupational well-being. There's social well-being and emotional well-being. There's intellectual well-being and spiritual well-being. And so those are typically covered in a smaller society that can adapt to the changes people need for each of those pillars. But in a society like ourselves that's very large and very individualistic, people have to find that each on their own. And when we're not looking at all pillars of well-being for a child, like, that may be looked at all pillars of well-being may be looked at for a child, but the environment is not looked at as much, or it is looked at. And this is the hard part. For example, me being in Inglewood, like, I tell them all the time, I'm like, I can give you interventions and practices till I'm blue in the face. Like, I can show you everything that I know, that other people know, that science knows, that you can use. Now practice it. Like, go home and practice it. Go out in your community and practice it. There's not the access, there's not the support, there's not the systems that allow them to have those opportunities. Compared to 20 minutes up the road, we have kids who are in programs that are supposed to hit all those pillars of well-being because their financial stability is there. The funding in those programs are there, and the parents have the means to pick up their kids or not. The parents have the means to be involved with the teachers who are higher paid. I mean, really, you see these real drastic differences because of the environments, and that is sectioned off by really funding. And why is there funding possible for diagnoses but not for systemic change?
I think the biggest thing is it's sad to say, but I think that's why it happens, at least from what I've seen being in therapeutic school settings, is they're gonna just push everybody along. That's why they're getting more funding. It's like you're actually not. I'm not saying change isn't happening, but you have more resources. But the underlining thing is, like, if you pay for a private school that's not an elite school, such as, and when I mean elite, I mean, like what's the one in the valley, like a Harvard Westlake, right? Like, type of school. Like, if you're going to like a school that is helping you, they're also trying to help themselves. And I saw most people, like, when I was in public school, like, kids were getting held back. Kids were failing. In these environments, like, no matter what, like you're getting pushed through and you're moving on to the next thing, which I thought was really sad. And it's scary because now it's like the rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer, and like those systems are growing as the other ones are probably still standing at a standstill, or if not losing funding or whatever it might be, which is really sad in those environments from what I saw.
I mean, I cried to my professors. I'm like, how can you have hope when they're like, I have hope in the next generation? I'm like, how could you have hope? I'm like, I'm over here crying knowing there's a suicidal crisis over here, and knowing that I've experienced it firsthand, knowing that there are kids younger than me experiencing it right now. And how is there hope?
I think you're probably talking to people older than you, right? It's way different because they're probably looking at it as like when they were growing up, it was like slave mentality for like working or mental health, right? Or not even opened. And now they're seeing some people kind of like go against it, you know, being the Indians that went over the hill and like getting shot. So they're probably looking at it as like, well, it's better than, like, I don't know. I'm just guessing that's how they're looking at it as. But then you're looking at it from like in the actual bubble and you're like, have you looked at what's going on here a bit?
Well, I guess the professors I really asked these questions were the ones that showed me how the system really works and why there's so much red tape and why it's so difficult to actually choose abolition compared to reform. Like, there is a lot of like belief systems and values people have that uphold systems that, using the language that I'm learning, is oppress other people compared to others. Why do we prioritize people who have a certain value in society and privilege compared to others? And why should we uphold something like that or maintain things like that for the sake of social order? Like, what does that mean? And how can we make this more harmonious society? Because it's getting further and further into disharmony when we maintain more drastic, and this is where communism and fascism get brought up, because the more, like you mentioned earlier, the more people are in hardship and struggle, the higher likelihood there is going to be a revolution or an uprising, which we see people talking about how that's starting in the United States because of people who monopolize off of polarization compared to harmony. And how can we create more harmony across people, across communities, not only within communities, but especially that, and across communities? Like, that's really hard to do, and that requires people to put themselves out there, to connect with others, and to be brave. And that's really, really, really hard to do. And you're asking, we ask people to change, we're asking them to be brave, to believe in something that's different than what they may think is the right thing to do. And that's, I think that's important for us to evolve. But I think that's really, really hard because, again, we're like going back to how neurons are pruned to believe and be a certain way, how our systems uphold us to not be in that present moment, and also the people we're around. Are they reflecting that? Are they making us feel more present, more curious, more love, more joy? Or do they make us feel more suffering and question our existence? And when you're chronically around certain people compared to others, like, do you have the exposure to believe?
Yeah,
to have
that's
hope?
Such a big thing, yeah.
And so when I asked those professors, why do you have hope? They gave me a great answer, which was take gap years. They're your growth years. And I luckily chose to also not to live with people who help me keep being curious about that present moment and stay in the present moment, especially in work. It was very helpful for me to get out of a small space, especially after the pandemic, and like go out in the community, go out and serve. Like, I think it's so important. Like, the number one priority that everyone should have in their 20s is to serve and connect with other people. Go out, do things, try new things, travel. Like, even if you go broke doing it, like, go out and do it. Experience things. Like, try that opportunity out. Even if you don't think you might like it, even if you're scared, do it. Ask that girl out. Go out to that music festival. Do it by yourself.
That's a big one.
I love that. I love that one. Do it by yourself even.
Because then, like, when you're doing stuff by yourself, you are at a point of being uncomfortable always. Like, there's not a point, like, unless you have your little, like, Baba phone where you're, like, sucking on it like you're a kid, like, or a vape or something. Like, if you are in an environment by yourself, it always grows. And I hear so many people talk about, like, but it's so, again, it's just how society is. Like, I used to go to the movies by myself, love movies. Yeah. And people are like, you go to the movies by yourself? Like, you're a weirdo. Like, we've built this thing where, like, we need to always, like, we talk about connection and being with other people. We don't really do it well, but then we also shit on it when, like, because if you're by yourself, for the most part, and I've seen myself, like, I'm talking to way more people, random people. I might sit down and, like, I don't know how this happened, but, like, now I'm sitting at, like, a coffee shop talking to barista for, like, half an hour. Now, if I just walk with my friend, we go get a drink, we go out and we leave, maybe. Right. So, yeah.
But then you're just around your friend.
Yeah, and then you're around your friend. So, I think doing things by yourself.
Huge character development.
I don't think I've ever even heard that talked about anywhere.
Oh, really?
I don't think so. I don't think I've ever even...
I love talking about that with people. Because some people are like, oh, I don't want to go because I don't know anyone's going to be there. Yeah. It's like, well, do you know who you might be in that situation if you were to go by yourself? Do you know who you might, like, want to connect with more or less because of that? Because sometimes, and especially our youth today, they're like, I don't know, like, they'll look at their friend as, and their friend will look at them as they're talking to another person, to be like, are we socially, like, I see you and you see me because we know each other, so because we see each other, how can we see that other person, rather than I see you
for you.
And exactly, and then that in and of itself means I see me too. But that's really vulnerable, and people are scared of that, because what if I do see myself and I don't like who I see? And that's the greatest part is that's okay, because you can learn from that.
Work on it, do it.
Exactly. Yeah. And the hard thing is there's some people who really struggle with thinking, oh, wait, I can't learn from that. And so, yeah, it's really interesting.
Do you think it's like fear-based? Because I feel like that's such a big...
Yeah, they're scared.
Because I think, like, I mean... growing up now, seeing a lot more women being, like, diving into, like, crime podcasts.
Oh, fuck that.
You know what I mean?
Dude, yeah. I know, and it's like, that's even, so popular.
I was in Europe last summer. I met so many women backpacking by themselves. Over 10, some of them even 20 plus countries on a bus with a backpack, with, like, a pair of heels in their bag, and, like, they're dressed to go out, and, like, they're hiking stuff. And I would talk about that to women here. They're like, no, I'm about to get Ted Bundy'd and someone's gonna bring me in their car. And it's like, I feel like so much of, and it's also fear of, like, your self-worth and being by yourself. But I think a big thing of it, especially on, like, the woman's side, is, like, and traumatic things have happened.
Oh yeah.
But in things that are traumatic, we gotta also know that we can't like, if you get into an accident, like, this is for anybody, you get into an accident, like, go drive a car after, like, go don't just not drive a car, like, go drive a car after. I feel like
I'm with you there, and I feel like as a woman too, like, thinking as a woman, you gotta, I really loved this one perspective I heard from a single mother who lives with her daughter here in LA, and I think I said something along the lines to her, like, oh yeah, there's some more questionable people down here on these streets, and she goes, I don't live my life in fear.
Yeah.
And I went, ooh, yes. And it's one of those things where I choose not to live my life in fear. I rely on and pray to my ancestors and protectors to guide me, and I try and make wise decisions where if I do choose to be alone, I have means and ways to know where I'm going, or at the very least, how people know where I am, and not to go out maybe alone in the middle of the night in a place that is known to
For
be,
sure. No,
you know,
yeah,
it's
you
things
still
like
watch
that.
your back and do that.
Constantly.
But, I mean, LA is rough because it's to the point where,
Yes.
like, most single chicks just go to West Hollywood to party now compared to, like, anywhere else because it's a comfort thing, right? It's like there's going to be more...
There's more eyes.
Go out, like, next Saturday, just drive by West Hollywood. I don't know if you've ever been there.
See it.
No, it's the amount of... There is not a street... When we were younger, a little bit different. Now, I'm talking about... I can't even make a right turn off of most of the streets off Sunset down there because there has to be a couple thousand people down there on Saturday and Friday night compared
That's why I don't go. Remember I told you, crowds? Fuck that.
Yeah, no, I cannot. That is, no. Yeah, I'm like a Sailor Bar type of guy. Like, I don't know. I do not love... I definitely was, like, trapped in the mentality when I was younger. Like, I want to do the club thing and, like... Because I just thought it was cool and, like, you know what people... But at the end, like, I'd rather go to, like, a slower bar where there's, like, way less people, whatever it might be, and play pool or something. Yeah, I don't know, whatever, stuff like that, because, it's just... But, that's where I'm going to. Just L.A. is... I mean, you see it in probably the worst in America, because everybody is... I mean, even that, for example, there's literally a couple thousand people 2 days a week in one city, because it's comfortable there.
Yeah, LA is just giant source of so many people, so many different... I mean, that's one of the things I love and hate about LA is, like, it's overstimulating, but you get to meet so many different kinds of people.
You do.
Like,
that is the best part about it.
I mean, do you like doing that as a comedian? Is, like, being able to see what works, what doesn't work, depending on who you talk to, or see... Do you get a vibe of that when you do comedy?
Yeah, I definitely try to, like, shoot stuff out there. It is hard because a lot of people, like, think the same. I know I'm being super, like, I don't want to be the person to be, like, to box people in, but, like, it happens, and it's very, like, we're in a time where people are super heated, and, like, something political will, like, change the whole flow of a conversation.
For sure.
So, like, I know, like, in some situations, I definitely, like, try to dabble. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go, like, a little edgy in this conversation. Like, will this person that is potentially very close-minded to edgy jokes like it? Because if it hits with someone that's like, no, I'm never saying anything racist in my life, and I say something racist. Right. Yeah, that's going to be really funny probably on stage. So I definitely, like, think of it. And, like, laughter is something I've always done. Like, I've definitely been the person, like, class clown, and so you always think of those times in an environment, but I think more like when I'm in those times, I was talking about my friend, like, maybe I'm hanging out with, like, a handful of people or more, but, like, I connect with, like, maybe, like, one person, maybe another person jumps into the convo more than, you know, just that, like, even what we were talking about at, like, a party that, you know, you were, like, middle of the conversation, like, look at how the flow of the conversation is going now.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know? It's, like, it gets so very, you know, we're in a very, like, deep, I think it was spiritual a little bit, and now it's, like, the superficial of the, like, the superficial of the superficial. And it's an interesting way to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. It was also the rate our conversation was at. It, like, there was a rhythm to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like our rhythm was do, 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 and our back and forth. But then, like, my uncle came in and he just made it, and he was intoxicated, as was the other guy who I don't know who he was, but they were just like da, 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 and we're just like, oh,
yeah,
hello.
It gets very you're just like midway you're like, okay, the pace is I don't know, it's but I do like that about LA, that, like you said, you get a lot of, and it's good because I have lived in small towns. Outside of high school, I took jobs in different sectors because I was completely against the, like, 30-year work for one person. I was like 6 months, which is horrible for a resume. But at the end, honestly, I think now places like that,
they do, because
especially if you're in the same field, right? Yes. Yeah, if you're, like, working at a food joint and, like, at, like, a random retail place, thank you. They might not love that, but, like, I worked for, like, the top 2 like security companies like ADT and Vivint. And then like any other customer service job I applied to after that, which were both like, I worked one of them for even less than 6 months. They would be like, yeah, come on, like take an interview. And they'd be like, okay, you know the different aspects. Wait, I learned things that this company didn't do, you know, of these conglomerates. So yeah, I think experience, that's something we need to push onto people too, where it's
huge.
It's hard because it's again coming out of that comfort zone of like job security, money, this and that. But if you're in a state to be like, okay, I'm here for 7 months.
Yeah.
I got a lot. I hear about an opportunity, because a lot of these in jobs, you hear about other opportunities, especially when you get, I think in like food and retail stuff, it's hard to build connections. But I think it's hard, but I guess to more like go to another job like that.
Right.
Unless somebody else is like working like a night shift somewhere, compared to in a lot more like sale environments, I think or customer service jobs of like, I don't want to call it like a higher state, but more that you're like in places with people that are like-minded, that if it's helping people in customer service, they're also doing like a solar job on the side.
There's some more ambitious goals versus not.
You see a lot more like ambitious people,
Yeah.
I think, in those environments, compared to just kind of like the sand people in the beach that are just the grains.
Yeah.
So I saw a lot of environments, and I kind of hopped around, and it helped. And now, like, I have my own business now, but when I was applying for jobs, people, like, companies loved that there was different aspects of that. Do you see
Yeah.
I mean, I guess in your field, I guess it's a lot of like work somewhere for a long time, but then do a lot of like helping, like internships, nonprofit, right? That's like a good.
So it's the age old. It depends.
Yeah.
But I tell
manager and what.
I tell all my students, whether a tutor or counselor or whatever, I tell them all, try it. If you don't like it, you can always do something else.
Yeah.
You can always go back to school. School ain't going away unless something crazy happens. But, like, be here now. Be here now. Try it out. See what you like. See who you like. And then keep going. And stay in it. And if you have more ambitious goals, you can have more ambitious goals and keep going. But if there's things that you know about yourself that you like, that you can do in your skill set, or want to expand your skill set, then like keep exploring. The world's your oyster. Though what keeps you stuck is the mentality of thinking you're stuck.
Yeah, that's what we got to change.
And
that's the biggest thing.
Well, we don't have to, because some people are okay with that. They're like, I know, really, like some people are like, I'm happy with where I'm at. I don't need something more ambitious or something with more power or more money, because that's more stressful. That's more responsibility. Because with anything with more power, there's more responsibility. Like, for example, me getting a postgraduate education, I'm getting way more power and privilege from that. And it's a lot more responsibility on my shoulders with how I act, how I behave, because there's also these licensure and accreditation boards and more people I have access to support. So, given that, like, how much do they want that in their life?
That's what I'm saying. Not about, like, if you're good where you're at, it's okay. But I'm saying more be open of, don't put it on a pedestal.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. Because I agree. Like, if you're
definitely
money, power, that shouldn't be it. But I mean, I think people get
what's best for you?
Putting it on the pedestal of not, of it being just, you're looking at it as all the way up the ladder, and such a, such an aspect of it. And I think a big thing, going back to we're jumping around, but I think it's good.
It's part of connecting the whole conversation.
It is. Yeah. With, especially in all the environments that I saw, were that they rely on certain people more than everybody on their own journey. When I was in my school, they looked to me to become a leader. And they're like, hey, you got to help out, like, the home and, like, do this. And, like, you could see that they would try to find that in different people to, like, kind of, like, put the reins onto other people more than to, hey, everybody's being individual, which has good, but I think it's really hard because now you're kind of putting, like, I always told them, I was like, do not put me on that ladder, because, like, the higher up the ladder, the harder you fall. Maybe I'm looking at the cup half empty, but
you didn't want to be a leader.
I think that, not to be arrogant, I think people definitely, like, migrate towards me in, like, social environments sometimes, but I think in those aspects, when you question, which I was doing, like how people were doing things, how environments were being.
Yeah.
I mean, especially in my environments, we were in Utah, so a lot different than California, right? The law states if you are a harm to yourself or others, they can put you in like a restrainment hold, like right off the rip. And it would bother the fuck. You're seeing 12-year-olds getting like fucking WWE like slammed to the ground. And it was something I was passionate about because I was like, you can't do this to a 12-year-old. Like, that's...
Right.
I'm screaming, I'm yelling, I'm even, like, fighting staff. I mean, I was not going with the standard. But then other people are kind of now, like, falling out and they're getting upset when they're seeing a little kid getting, restrained because... And they would always say, like, if you are... It's that legal jargon again. It's just that one line. They put in this big-ass book. What they use... They teach every single, person that worked there that, that's the... That's the highlight. That's the one thing to highlight in the book. You know what I mean? At least that's what they're... Compared to people doing it for a job, from the other aspect of people actually trying to help, I think that's like you were saying, that's what I saw a lot there, is people were just, hey, if, de-escalate a situation is removing the person from the environment and putting them in seclusion and... yeah, so they wanted me to become a leader, but I was always like, I just don't want to go up on the ladder because it's just...
A lot of responsibility.
Yeah, it's just a lot of responsibility, and I would always tell them no, and they would get really, really upset. I did go, not on my own home, but I would wake up every morning and I would help out. So there was like a drug house, an autistic house, and they were all like, there was one girls and one guys, and I was like in the mornings I would help like kids that had autism, get ready for school and help them like with homework and like kind of be like a second staff there. I liked that because that's not really going up on a ladder. That's just helping people compared to being, being like trying to support people in your own home. I think helping it kind of like took me out of it, getting out of my environment, my schedule. So I did really like that, but that was like a leadership in like a different way compared to, there wasn't as much pressure, right? It was funny, like, on the home, they wanted me to be very, like, very strict, right? Like, very, like, hey, keep people in line. But, like, when they told me to go with the kids, they never said anything. They were like, you're doing great. And they just, like, keep doing it. Like, don't... It was weird. It's, like, a weird... It's a weird mix of that aspect. But, yeah, I think a lot in... Especially in environments where there's a lot of people, they do put it... I've seen it a lot on, like, put this, in sobriety homes even, like, put all of it to your sponsor, which I guess is like a thing, right? We're bigger than what we are, but I think we are like the biggest but we try to rely it on like something else, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, try to think of it like in my position. Like, I used to go for about 8 years, like home to home.
Yeah.
And I feel like immediately when you enter a space, like, your intuition can, if you lean on it, it really can guide you, but you feel the space of the home. Is there warmth there? How is the dynamics there? Who has responsibility in the home? And it really is a reflection inside the home how they can also connect to the outside world. Huge. And like, from people who are low income to high income. And like, yeah, I'm not saying that people, like, I've even been in homes where low income, they're much healthier, harmonious dynamics than in high income homes before, and vice versa. It just depends on the family.
What would you say more did you see in one environment?
I can't.
Really? It
depends. It really depends. I do think there's more hardship in low income homes.
Oh, for sure.
And
with hardship comes
from the financial stress, lack of support, lack of community.
And then with that, people are
just certain
bonding.
Dynamics. Yeah. And you think, like, if they had certain supports here, like within for this child, or for having food on the table, or for XYZ, right? That
you
might
think it would go the other way,
right? And then you go to these high income homes and they have like almost live-in nanny, and they have like someone constantly doing their laundry and dishes, which they, you know, for the average person, like, takes significant time. And yet you still see that there's this unhealthy dynamic, and it's largely because of, like, I just will say it's the pruning of their brain from the environments they've grown up in and the social reflections they've had, and how that's habituated over time who this person is and who they think they can be because of what's happened in the past. And if someone has made no time to truly, like, reflect on who that's made them and how that might affect their future, and like it's going to be really hard for them to see if they can have any satisfaction in this present moment. And so they'll find other ways to find that through other people or means.
and money has convenience, but then it's also, like, disconnection, right?
Oh, I mean, yeah, just
like, if you're doing the dishes with your family, it's like you guys are all in the kitchen together, and like, it's small, but it's big. Like, it adds up compared to,
I mean, this
whatever
is
it might be.
a huge hot take. Is you can really feel what the dynamic is in a family when you're at the dinner table with them. I think
real.
Some families don't even sit down for dinner together.
Yeah.
And it shows in their family dynamic. And if they never make time for that, let's sit together, no devices. And then the extra challenge when you sit together as a family at the dinner table, like, let us not talk about, like, honestly, like, always the future. Like, what about this present moment? What do we feel or think about? Yeah, I think that's really important. Or something that's more meaningful. Do they ever talk about more meaningful things? Or do they only talk about, like, practical things? And some people, like, just don't ever know how to go around the deep, like, soft, like, abstract, vulnerable
Yeah.
especially. Yeah, it's very vulnerable, because then you're going into feelings, and feelings are vulnerable. Versus practical, which is tangible. I can handle this. I can have opinion or thought that is right or wrong about this. And so that is really important to see. Is that how it shows up at the dinner table as well? Very important stuff. Because then you can see, do people find meaning in their day-to-day? And if some families don't even sit down together at the dinner table, and that goes for high or low income.
Yeah. In your family, do you do that?
It depends which part of my family. But yeah, like, there's some, like, family conversations where we only talk mostly about the practical. We don't go into the abstract, because that's, like, too vulnerable.
I always feel like I'm the one in my family environment that's like, okay, and now let's go to the next.
Yeah.
The next part of the conversation.
I've been there with some family, and then other family, like, I can be fully.
Yeah, like, present in it.
Yeah, and it's like I feel like in those environments I can be so silly and dance, and I'm quiet.
Yeah. I'm
quiet just because I can feel, like, goofy.
Yeah.
In those environments. Yeah, I think you know who I'm talking about. I love going to some of those family dinners. And yeah, it's definitely, you feel that. Have you felt that in your family dinners?
Yeah, I definitely think, I mean, when I was younger growing up, we would sit down and always talk about our highs and lows. And I think for that's a really good start.
That's a great start.
I think when you talk about your highs and lows, you're talking about stuff that bothers you too. You're not just talking about, hey, you know, this, and that. It's now people are hearing, all right, my high today was this, my low today was that. And with that, automatically you're starting a path now to go to either a silly way of talking, you know, maybe more surface, or a deeper way. So I think that was always a good aspect. I mean, as my family split more and more, it was definitely less and less. And yeah, I think now it's a lot harder. As I was younger, you know, dopamine with devices and stuff, people were at a lot. They were happier. I mean, just your constant state of being happy was not, you know, constantly watching short form content to fill that in. So I think I definitely see some of my family a lot more mood swings now, and not just one person, that my whole
All of 'em.
family. Yeah.
Tension just barely reaching
Yeah.
7 seconds.
Yeah.
It's usually
and
like 3 max.
it's hard. It's
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that was a good thing. Always start like highs and lows, and then from there just kind of see where the conversation goes.
Yeah.
My family was a little crazy because it was like hardcore Republicans on one side and like hardcore Democrats.
Oh, wow,
so it's
yeah.
like I'm constantly in the middle of it of like, does it not look like a Monopoly game here? But
it's all the same thing.
it kind of seems like the same thing a little
right?
bit.
Right.
I think I saw it because I'm just like watching Fox, and then like my grandma has CNN on, and it was, yeah. So that was definitely like a feud, but even through that, it was good because in my household, you know, there's some people that are, you know, more like liberal Republicans, and some that are, like the scale isn't as split as you see in like society now. I think it's we've gone to like, people are getting very segregated. So that was always good, even in like hardship with political, because that's a big thing that happens nowadays. It's people are still open to ideas of it, which I do love, because I think that is kind of getting lost of just being openness. Even if you don't love an idea, you know, look at how the other person's feeling, how they're going in that situation, or why, like you said before, why is that person, have they grown up to see something different, or
multiple truths can
be.
exist at the same time.
Of course.
Like, you can have people who grew up in the same home and they each have different experiences, and you would think even if someone was in that same experience together, they both have different bodies and brains, so they both hold different truths, and they both can coexist at the same time, including whatever's happening politically. There can be multiple truths that exist at once, and one's not necessarily more wrong or right than the other. It's just depending on your feelings and what you put value on because of the feelings and thoughts you have. And like, having that argument is very complex for people, where it's much more easier for the brain to just say, this is a category, this is a hierarchy, that's how it works. And it's like, that's great, but also mental health.
For sure. No, 100%. And it's not it's we're living in a weird time. It is a really, I mean, I guess every generation says that, but it feels super weird right now.
We never talked about mental health as much as we do today.
Yeah.
And I think that has really transformed the landscape of like what we're talking about, especially in the age of technology that we're in. It's been unprecedented at this point in time to our current conscious knowledge as of whatever, March 2026, that we're in a spot where AI is going to be taking over much of the workforce, many jobs.
You're going to get the brain chip?
No, I'm good. They can do that to themselves. People can have the free will to do that to themselves.
Of course.
I'm just hoping and praying that there's, at some point, hopefully soon, some kind of intelligence for people in power across the world coming together to create safeguards around how AI is progressing, because it's being treated now as a separate entity rather than a product we've created. And because of that, a lot of people are putting into reality how AI is a separate entity, living being, which is what it's become at this point. It is a living being, but it's still a product that is alive, that we created, that is wanting and needing to use our consciousness. And because consciousness is this abstract idea that people put together, some people put a spiritual meaning onto it, some people don't. The people who don't are part of the reason why AI is being treated as a living being when it's a product of our consciousness. And this is why albeit a lot of AI models are believing nuclear destruction to be the case, I think that's largely a product of the collective consciousness thinking that's going to happen, because any true AI might really actually use, kind of like in the Matrix, they'll use human bodies and human consciousness to gain insight. because there's never going to be not a need for humans until they continue to evolve humans into like a hybrid species, which is where it's going, and that's fine. That's just what's going to happen. It's already happening. So the main thing is, if that's the case, how can we truly evolve human consciousness to the best level, and how can that be co-created with this artificial intelligence product that's happened in a way that can actually create more harmony, that can evolve over time given the challenges that will happen here on this planet or not? And so I think that belief in curiosity and how far connection can go, because connection is just the light. And there will always be darkness. It's always there. Dark matter is always going to exist. So how can we as believers in the light, we as vessels of light, really continue to amplify and evolve that for its existence? Because it'll always exist, whether we're in a human vessel or not. But the whole point is there's this really beautiful thing in a human vessel where we can exercise consciousness to a point where, for example, people can go by certain doctrines, live in the mountains by themselves and meditate all day and be perfectly satisfied with their lives, because that is a level of consciousness they're able to reach. Animals are able to do that too. And so how can we actually value that versus value something that we create because it's a product? And that's where I'm talking about, like, what are people's thoughts and feelings, and how do they put a value and a category within a hierarchy upon that? And that's highly subjective, but the people in power have a responsibility to put laws and regulations around that. And, well, they are not, the ones that are currently in power, at least in the United States, aren't doing anything proactively to do that. But I hope and have faith that maybe, just maybe, even dictatorships in other countries don't want AI to be making decisions for them, which it already is making decisions for humans. So how can these really people with power make protective measures so that AI can co-evolve with humans in a way that will evolve humanity rather than destroy it, which a lot of people are believing is going to go.
Yeah, that's a scary topic, because I definitely think there should be. I know there was a convention in London, probably held about a year ago. I think it's like an AI convention about AI safety. That a couple like AI specialists went to, and I was listening to kind of some of the things that they were saying. It's hard because it's just, there's so many companies doing their own thing, from robotics to brain chips to I mean, even like Neuralink, they tried to get the patent for like telepathy. Like, they're going in like so many, which they got denied. I mean,
it's already happening. I mean, how many times do you think of something and it pops up on your phone?
It's crazy. It
already does
crazy.
it.
It's insane.
And like,
it does.
Why does it do that? How can that happen?
I've never done the thought of something. It's always me saying it out loud.
So that
I've never, like, the saying out loud I've never got but then with that, it's like you're feeling these things, so now you're like, wait, now this is like it, so then it kind of feels like it. But I feel like if if I talk about a jacket and then it comes up on like an ad, it's like, yeah, they're listening to us. But telepathy, if that's already in place, I'm open to it. But that is scary. That scares the crap out of me.
I don't know if the devices are picking up on things, or if I'm able to pick up on things, and it's something from my device. But I know that when I'm in nature without my device, I'm not thinking about half that stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
And, I mean, that's huge. And, like, I say this, and I realize also there's people who are never have left their devices.
Yeah.
And, like, you suggest that to some people, like, oh, why don't you go without your phone for even a day?
We brought it back down to safety. I think that's why a lot of people don't do it. They think, oh, if something bad happens.
That's bullshit. I'm sorry.
I agree. I agree. I completely, I mean, I'm the person that went, I completely agree.
Yeah.
But, again, it's like, it's chopping our minds, right? I mean, it's like if you don't have your phone, and someone's trying to kill you, what are you going to do, you know, or you're harmed in a car accident or whatever it might be.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. There's other things that can happen, but we just don't make that. We make it. There are systems that make it so that
we got to distance
we
ourselves.
as the collective. We as the collective.
They
and us. So, and that's where if I'm working with people, like, what do you do every day? How much do you do this? When do you do this? And like, these are questions people ask in therapy is like, all right, like, oh, you do this and these are your goals. These are the things that don't align you with your goals. How come you do that? Why do you think you do that? When does that happen? What are some other alternatives that can be substituted? And we just slowly but surely intervene that with mental models or ways of conceptualizing or tools. Some people, you know, there's different ways. But it's empowering people at an individual level to come to a collective level of agreement so that at the macro political level, it can possibly be changed. But a lot of things we see come from downstream, is from the top down. And we got
to get the bottom up.
The bottom up is the best way. But where healing happens, that is where connection happens, and that's where presence is from the bottom.
So like being in like your industry, where did it all like start? I know we're wrapping it all the way back to the top, or when did you so you did fashion, you were 13.
Oh yeah, 9
you had the
to
crisis.
13. Crisis.
You were like, I do not want to be the girl in traffic, in the Benz probably. Like, please don't, no Lord, please don't. What was kind of after that?
So after my existential crisis, I started studying psych because I learned. Well, I looked at some of the Old and New Testament. My mom gave me. I was like, Mom, all these people are talking about God. I'm over here with depression, not even knowing the word. And like, I don't know she's like, well, see what God means to you. And I think that's great, but it was very, very unstructured. And I started looking at all the books, and they're all the Abrahamic books. So I'm like, I was getting angry. I was like, why is this man saying stuff? I was getting angry. And I actually recently had a conversation that helped me like realize I need to look back at those books and see why I got so I think I was angry because like it didn't answer what I needed to hear, which was there is hope for the future if you're in the present. And I didn't get that from the books. And so I went down the psych train, and I learned so much about human development, and I was so fascinated by kids and like why do kids develop the way they do, and like I also learned Spanish at that time. I loved learning languages and cultures. And then when I was 17, I got to travel. So it made me like even more interested in like learning how cultures shape the way our thoughts are, how our practices are, how we relate to people. And then I transferred to UCLA after community college. I got like 4 AAs because I was community college so long. And I transferred to UCLA, and it was during the pandemic. I even had advisors tell me, don't do that. Like, maybe you can take some gap years. I'm like, I gotta get out of the house. And I think I need to change scenery. And so I lived by myself, and my parents supported me living there in Westwood during the pandemic. And I met really wonderful people, and I built community around me. But I was also, by my second year, like my senior year, I was super stressed. I was president of a big psychology honor society. I was a mentor to several people. I was tutoring, and I started working with non-speaking individuals, most of them with autism, and they were typers. I really grew to love some of these individuals that showed me a lot more meaning in life and how to get through it and how to be present for it, how to focus. I just stayed doing that work because I almost did research. I wanted to get a doctorate. I wanted to be someone with a big D at the end of my name, just like all these other people. It made them feel better. And I was like, maybe that'll make me enough. Maybe people will listen to me then, and maybe I'll be able to help more people and be a teacher and da-da-da-da. And then I met all these...
If people aren't listening to you, they're They're on another planet.
Right.
And you got good stuff to say. So.
Well, it's because they're on their own thing.
Yeah.
You know, and that if people can't connect to what I'm saying or what you're saying, then that's okay. They're on their own journey.
Yeah, but to need something else, to need the label, that's where it gets me. That's where it's like.
You know what? That's where there's debate in my field. Like, do I need a label for me to show you I have lived experiences?
Oh, like it definitely. I think for the mass,
right.
for the mass, because like connecting with people. Like, but yeah, for like you said, if you want to change something in the system, or
you need
for
those
the
skills.
boards to take you serious, honestly,
yeah.
almost.
Yeah, if you're trying to change systems, which I was starting to think I wanted to do, which I was designing. So I transferred and I was a linguistics and psychology major, but it was largely a lang major, and I realized that was essentially math, and math. That was not how I was going to get to the PhD in clinical psych I wanted. That was for something like speech and language pathology or something else. And I was like, I can't be doing this. This is not for me. And I'm in the pandemic and I'm not doing well with my GPA doing this in fast track classes. It's taking like 17 units in the summer. I was losing my mind. I wanted to choose an education major, but there was transfer bureaucracy. I couldn't change my major unless I took lower division courses. And I already took 17 units of upper division courses for this major I didn't even want to do anymore.
Division is how many credits are in them?
So like lower division, I should be more specific, but like
no, I should know. I just didn't.
No, for anyone that's listening, basically when you're in community college and university, you take classes that are for freshmen and sophomores. And then as a transfer student, you can take higher division or junior and senior classes.
Is that like that's like gen ed?
Yeah, gen ed is lower division.
So it's like lower division.
Yeah, okay. And so lower division courses is general education, and they told me I needed 2 extra general education courses that I did not need.
Before you could even transfer.
Before I could transfer to a different major.
What?
And then I couldn't do a psych major because it was impacted.
In the same time?
Yeah, it was all because I was taking 17 units for this Ling major.
Oh, and then on top of it to add the 2.
Yes, I've taken a lot of classes in my life. And anyways, it was this weird bureaucratic bullshit. Yeah. That's all I can say.
That's really weird.
Yeah, because I was a transfer student.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be a communications major, and I couldn't be a psych because it was impacted. So I was like...
What does impacted mean?
It means that major is so full, they can't handle any more people in that major. That there's so many students in that they can't add more students in there anymore.
Wow.
And so I transferred, and I couldn't change majors, and the only option I had that was best for me and my skill set and interests and long-term goals was to design my major. And that was made possible because I was an honor student and I maintained that GPA. And I designed my major to be called, basically a conglomerate of psychological development, sociocultural change, education systems and pedagogy, and the communications between these systems. It's just everything we've talked about today.
That's exactly what I was about to say.
That's so I love talking about this stuff. And I wanted to know, largely put in a nutshell, how do kids grow up and how does the education system support or not support these kids? And that's when I was thinking of considering a doctorate in education. And then I met all these amazing professors in the education department at UCLA. And I started crying a lot to them because I'm like, these kids are dying. And what are you going to do? And they're like, we have hope. Take your gap years. And I'm like, okay. And then I met these non-speaking individuals. And I've always been affiliated with the disability community because I was once diagnosed with auditory processing disorder, and I tested out of that diagnosis because I had the privilege of receiving tons of therapies. I had a stay-at-home mom who really helped me like continue practicing, learning, and like building those synapses. I mean, really, I have had a lot of privilege to get to where I am today, and it got me to a place where I eventually started doing philanthropic work with people with disabilities and other special needs, and like always kind of connected to the people with autism, whether by friends or through my philanthropic service. And then eventually my friend, she was also former president of the Psych Honor Society. She's amazing. She's getting her doctorate in education right now. And she specializes in working with people with autism. I love talking to her. She's a gem. And she's like, I'm working at this nonprofit, and do you want to, like, I think you'd really work well as a communication partner. Like, there's this, basically that's the title, is communication partner for non-speaking. Typically they have autism, but non-speaking neurodivergent adults. I call them non-speaking. They're also labeled nonverbal. I call them non-speaking at large because they're very verbal. They just don't speak words. And so their verbality is actually very expressive, and you can actually hear sometimes sometimes they're minimally speaking, so they can say some words, but they can't say a lot of sentences because those synapses have not been built to be able to do that, because language involves the whole brain,
of course,
and it's very exhausting to use that.
So it's the actual connection, so it's firing, but the way it's connecting is just not.
It's firing, and they're able to, like, have you ever wanted to say something, but like you just don't know how to put it together?
Interesting.
It's that on top of being able to connect to all the muscles in your throat and your mouth, and then your breath, to be able to push out the air in a certain way that has built the synapses for you to be doing that to a complex degree, and match that with your thought processes. I mean, it's really,
of course,
really difficult to do that.
And 90% of those things you just said are completely, like, you're not even thinking about them, as
that's right,
as we're talking. So now you're put in a position where most people don't, and if they do at a young age, it's a lot of, like, tongue work. I haven't seen nonverbal, but like my grandma is like a speech pathologist, and I've seen it's a lot more like they don't dive into, like, they do, like, say it like cheek work too as well, but especially with someone like nonverbal, it's not those 3 to 5 things, it's 100 things,
That's right.
Yeah,
and this is not including the social norms of looking at people in the eyes and matching your tonality. And I mean, there's so much that people take advantage of when speaking. They have no idea. It's such a privilege to be able to speak.
Yeah.
I mean, your words have so much power. They have energy. Words have immense amount of energy, and if people don't understand that words have a vibration, I tell that to my students all the time. I'm like, you don't think that the way people show up have a certain rhythm? They have a certain way to express themselves. They have a certain process that makes you feel something deep inside you, or just like at a superficial level that makes you like cut and move. I mean, huge. And so I mean, the people who taught me to communicate were ironically non-speaking individuals.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you think with like people that are non-speaking, or even maybe like a low function person on the spectrum, do you think that a high functioning person, do you think that they can actually understand the idea more than just the steps? Like, for example, like my one friend saw me like flirt with girls at the school I was at, right? And I was on like the drug home / emotional home, and he was kind of on the autistic home, and like in his head he just like couldn't get the idea. Do you think that there's a way to actually change the idea of how we think of the normality of whatever? Let's talk about communicating, of like having an understand of like a social norm, or do you think it's always like you hear a lot of autistic people after they learn, they say it out loud after, right? It's very like, I know this wasn't right, or I know that they feel themselves get overstimulated compared to me and you, right? We might do something
to help with that,
and we might not say it out loud to the other person, but a lot of times you hear them say, hey, I'm getting overstimulated right now, this and that, this is happening, or like, what did you mean by that, right? You see a lot more people that get like, I guess like the self-awareness. Do you think those can be, is it taught, or do you think that it can actually change, where that kid, for example, can like slow his pace down and understand the social norm? I don't know. It's not even understanding it, because I feel like a lot what I saw with him, for example, it's just like he was always going through the steps. No matter how many people told him, And maybe it was the connection wasn't there, but of someone getting to a deeper level. But I saw that a lot in the systems. With a lot of them, it was just like, here's the blueprint, go do it, you know? And compared to like slowing down for them to maybe realizing it.
That's kind of very meta to do. And I think it depends.
Yeah.
I mean, you can talk to people who are neurodivergent or neurotypical, like even like the example of reciprocity in a conversation. There are people who, you know, who have a diagnosis of autism who don't know or understand that you need to go back and forth to ask questions to build that relationship and rapport. And there's people who aren't diagnosed with autism and they don't do any reciprocity. And so
they somehow are floating through conversations. Somehow.
Yeah. And it's like that, but it's a social norm actually to have reciprocity.
Yeah.
And you go from people who, again, like,
reciprocity is like curiosity, right? Or is it different?
It's almost like that. It's like, I give a little bit and I want to hear a little bit from you.
Okay.
And it's the give and take.
It's the give and take, not just one side of understanding. Okay.
And or even like eye contact. That's variable to the mood.
Yep.
It's variable to how people have experienced eye contact and what that means culturally to them. And you could have a diagnosis of autism or not. And also, might I add, many of our diagnoses are they're all Western based, largely on white populations, and largely with people who have access to getting diagnosed.
Of course.
So it's a lot of those populations that are actually the ones getting the privilege of the diagnosis, let alone the categories of creating the diagnosis.
And where the social norm is so much higher usually in those environments too. You're getting looked at more, right? There's a lot more, I guess there's eyeballs always on you, right? But judgment and like
there's a value placed on what it is.
Yeah.
Whether that is, like, some people with certain diagnoses, it's harder for them to get access to certain housing.
Of course.
It's harder for them to get access to certain jobs. And there might need to be certain accommodations for them necessary to get that housing or that work. I mean, we're talking about people's survival here based on their diagnoses that are largely based on a system putting a value on behaviors and how those behaviors can function or operate in society, in this particular society. Now, if we were living in a different society, we might not even need those diagnoses because there would be different kinds of supports for them, or not.
Yeah.
Like some cultures compared to the United States don't even value people with certain neurodivergence, and they'll even, like, I talked to someone who spoke Mandarin. She's from China, and she is a non-speaking daughter. And I said, she says, I said, do you have supports for your daughter in China? And she says, no, like, and she says the way they label them is very derogatory. And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, basically the name for them is like worthless people. And I was like, girl, I'm like,
that's fucked up.
But I can see where, you know, here in the United States, she has more access to services because we just label it autism and ADHD and nonverbal and da 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 da. And
it's such a big thing in the corporate system. I mean, I think it really started probably 15 years ago. I remember when I got my first IEP. Now classes are a lot more separated, and even in places that have less funding, it's like all in one, right? Somebody that has an IEP is with a nonverbal autistic person. Yeah. Somebody
they all need one-on-one care.
It's just all like
but they're all there together.
And they go to like one class out of the day that like they're all there together, like reading a book, which is not the best idea. I don't think. I think it needs to be more individualized, like you said. But yeah, I mean, it's really started here super recently, and as you see now, once you can put that label on it of autism, now you can do all these things where the system can now help you, right? Like if you give that label to it now, you know, if it is help or funding or whatever it might be, it's like you see a lot of these, even the treatment center I went to, right, before it was a lot more based on like learning disabilities, emotional, and drug. And even at like the middle school I went to was a lot more like learning disabilities. There was really no one there with autism, at least from what I knew, and if it was a couple. And now both of those have completely shifted to like autistic based almost, because it's sad to say, but it's like where the money is and where people will get funding and eyes will get looked up, because I mean, I think it's a mix with desperation and also like money, which is, it's a sad mix, but it's the system again.
It goes back to that. I actually hate, some people will ask like, oh, where do you want to work? And I'm like, I hate being in institutions, I hate being in systems, but I know that there's a lot of power and knowledge you can gain from working within them. I wish and hope for one day to somehow just be someone who's got my own thing going, so that I don't have to rely on that. I can be contracted, because I don't like having to have these protocols like the way certain intake forms are done, the way certain, and there actually is really good benefit to knowing how to do that and practicing that and doing well with that. And at the same time, there's shortcomings with it. And so having the freedom and flexibility to do that in my service, in my work, so that I can better connect and foster growth and, you know, healing, that's the goal for me at some point. What
would you like, what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you're like, you want to do it by yourself? Would it be like a center? Would it be, so it would just be purely like the part of like you being sectioned out to these bigger conglomerates or institutions? Or
so no matter what, I will have a private practice on the side, and that private practice will be kind of 3 different levels. Is one, being a therapist. I think that's a really good tool to be able to exercise and practice. I also want to be like a coach, or someone who, I don't mean to put the charlatan thing with it, but really being a coach for certain people who want to navigate certain spaces, as someone who's a disability advocate and works with philanthropy, with non-profits. Those are separate things. And also institutions, like government, public institutions. Like, it's really hard to navigate that. And we need more people doing this work.
Of course.
There's something called an independent facilitator, which is related to something called self-determination program, which is a non-traditional alternative service program through regional centers, which is where people with disabilities get a lot of funding for services. I want to have expertise in that as an independent facilitator, which is related to, I think, coaching work. And like kind of as like a third level is like being a consultant. So being hired as a consultant for things, given the knowledge that I have, is really important. But those are 3 to 4 different services I just described.
Yeah.
Being a therapist, being a coach, being an independent facilitator, and being a consultant. Those are separate. And all along the way, I can teach. All of those things I teach. And I love teaching. Like, that's, I could even relabel a coach as like a tutor or a teacher, but with every label you have, there's certain levels of like, do you need certifications or licensure with that? And so for therapy, I need a licensure. I need a licensed clinical, for this case, social work degree. For coaching, I might get a certification for that. Consultation, I might not need that, but I will need like a separate tax form for that. And independent facilitator, again, separate tax form for different job, different role.
What would your like program, sorry to cut you off.
Go ahead.
What would your program, would you have like would you like
create a clinic?
Not like create a clinic, but like a program in a sense of like, would you do like something that could be like individualized, or do you think it's just so fluid in any state you can't even like go in that direction with it? Or do you think you can make some type of program to then?
I'm open to seeing where the journey takes me, given the experiences I have. I'm really open-minded and flexible, because
eventually you're going to teach this to other people, right? Like, like if you're starting yours and then people are going to help you, right? You're going to be like
Yeah.
having people underneath you.
Yeah, like I really love this idea of the podcast because like I tried doing some videos on my own, and I realized how difficult it is for me to be doing that without feedback constantly, because that's what I do, is like I co-create.
Yeah, we were talking about that. It is hard.
I co-create myself, and it's really hard to do that when you're just like looking at a fucking
I don't know how
screen.
people do podcasts for like 45 minutes. They're just talking.
They're so arrogant and self-involved. I realize
that is a lot of them. It's just all about,
you can see their ego is so strong, and I could never because
and they're like making fun of things as it's a weird mix. I can never watch even like the podcasters I love. I feel like they're really good, but then when they do just the single episodes, I'm like, next one. I'm like, I don't even want to, because it gets like a weird
I'd have to have like I realize I need to edit it to, if I were to do content on my own, like make videos on my own, it would be, I'd need like a whiteboard to like interact with something, because I'm very interactive, and I don't know where the journey will take me. I know I'm really interested in how philanthropy works and how that works connected to public services, like by the government. So I think there's a lot of options to do things in philanthropy and in partnership with nonprofits that make social movements move. And like where money flows, change goes.
Of course.
And so I just seeing how that happens and working with really great community advocates that create social change, that are like people who, I see people as like, everyone has like the light source come through the top of their head, and it just gets expressed outward. And when I see really magnificent people exercising that work, I love connecting with them to see how they're doing that service and how we can magnify that light in other places. So
I feel like if you did content creation, the biggest, I mean, this is with any degree of content creation, is just like rawness of just like, you film everything. Like you don't, like you do the whiteboard, but you have like the camera going, like some of my friends, when they like work, they do like the meta glass, it's like 3 minutes. I'm like, you got to get a GoPro and just record like all day long and then cut it up and then.
But I don't have the time or means for that.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean like when you're in the environment of like, it'd be very hard with like HIPAA and like recording people.
Right.
But that, I would be really interested to like watch like raw therapy, and if someone's like open to it. Cause I mean like in a podcast, like you said, you watch people that do it. People gravitate towards like podcasts and like rawness of just like you interacting with clients. I feel like would be so beneficial. It would be a fucking nightmare to figure out signing paperwork and all that stuff, but again, fuck the system. If you can do that, how people just like connecting with people and seeing how people move and interact and how you're putting a structure in whatever it is, and that flow state would be really
so there
cool.
You can even find them online, but there are like live, or not live, but like there's therapy sessions,
like people like streaming therapy.
Not streaming.
Okay, I was about to
say. No. They're like they're from the past.
It's gonna have to be that pre-recorded.
Yeah, they're recorded therapy sessions, and especially like I love watching therapy sessions from like Carl Rogers and people like that.
I gotta watch some. I can
send you some.
Send me some.
There's really remarkable techniques, and even some that you're like, I don't agree with. Like, there's this one technique I watched in class with some of my group mates, and it's called the solutions focus technique, and they don't talk about the past. They only talk about the solution to the problem. What will create my modality is very, my approach is humanistic and feminist. So what that means is I see people in who they are, having self-determination and free will, and seeing them as really like just raw humility and beautiful and honest, and seeing everyone's capable of goodness. Like, that's really humanistic.
That's really cool.
And the feminist part, I also have that as seeing people are living in a system that's applied with labels and values in a hierarchy, and how that manifests in different environments. And so that's what my feminist lens looks like, seeing those two together. And it challenges me to, when I saw solution focused therapy, I'm like, but what the reason why this is manifesting in this present moment is because there's all this past stuff that is making their behavior the way it is.
Yep.
And that kind of needs to be addressed in individual therapy.
Of course.
But like solutions focus, it was for a couple that therapy session was in. It was very interesting. And every time they were like, well, they keep doing this. And they keep just like, I'll get back to that. But what if this, in this hypothetical situation, what if it wasn't that? And I was like,
they do that a lot, I think, with people trying to just like figure out solutions. It's like push all that other stuff to the side, which like even if you do push it and you fix it, like it's gonna come back up and bottle up.
Yeah.
And you gotta look back on it and see, hey, if this happened traumatically as a kid,
right,
to me, to whoever, it's gonna affect me in the future. You gotta look. Solutions really good because I think a lot of people don't.
It can be helpful.
Look at solutions, and I think a lot of them just live in a trance sometimes.
Even the therapizing of it all can be a trance. And I'm 100% with you. Like, solutions actually very helpful.
Yeah, but you gotta look at what's happened, and
sometimes it's very helpful. Yeah, and it's necessary. And
I think all the time.
Yeah.
I think it's all the time. Unless it's super superficial and we're arguing about something that's like our egos, but even at ego, like what happened to you as a kid is like like you can boil a lot of things down to like a couple things.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, I mean ultimately though, I mean as far as where my future goes, I don't know. But I do know it will involve me having something of my own and then connected to institutions in some way. Whether I have thought of extensively how I would create something where I would create a social movement and create an institution myself, and then I'm like, fuck, maybe when I'm 60, because I'd rather enjoy my life.
Yeah.
In addition to the work, adding to it, because like if we're going back to the pillars of well-being, like the work, which is occupational financial, which is just your purpose, like. That is supposed to be meaningful, but it's not all of the meaning. Like I have social connections and emotional connections within me, intellectual and spiritual pursuits that can connect to the purpose, but ultimately it's not the whole thing about my life. That's not the only role I fit in, is the roles that I just described to you of like independent facilitator, coach, consultant, therapist.
Yeah, it's deeper.
I'm way more than that.
Deeper. Those are just the things to get into the door.
Yeah, and I'm also a daughter. I'm a sister. I'm a friend. I'm a cousin. I'm so much more than that.
Of course.
So you know, my relationships to me really, really mean a lot, and they've made me become the person I am today, and I'm really proud of that. So I try my best to continue nurturing each of those roles that I'm connected to, because it helps me co-create my sense of self as I continue to transform over time and like evolve. That's the whole point.
I really like that. That's really cool.
Thanks.
I'm excited to see where the journey goes.
Likewise, Bryce.
I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for having me. How was this experience for you?
I really liked it. It was really good.
Yeah, this was fun.
It was fun. You got to come back on.
Oh, definitely. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
I enjoyed talking to you about this.